Hey guys. Here is part 5 of What If Naruto Met a Mysterious Archer During the Chunin Exams. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 54. What do you mean why? I sure had no intentions of seeing you again, furball. Naruto stomped, sending splashes of water in every direction. I am dead tired. I wanted to sleep peacefully, but no, I am here now. I should be the one asking why I am here. Do not flatter yourself, human, thinking that I had any desire to once more speak with you. You can only blame yourself for being here. The fox growled slightly. Yeah, why should I believe that, ag? Naruto jumped back when massive claws nearly reached him through the gaps between the bars of the enormous gate. The slammed itself against the gates with enough force to make the whole place shake, and the water that covered the floor formed a wave that washed over Naruto, blowing him back. You insolent human! Unless you have realized I can't leave this place because of the damned seal. Your presence alone makes me want to rip you to shreds. What reason could I have to want to suffer your presence once again? Damn, self-control, heard of it? Calm down, furball. Naruto got up with a scowl. I have no desire to calm down, human. I have every right to express my displeasure of seeing you and be locked up behind this accursed gate. The massive claws swiped against the metal of the gates, but other than producing sparks, the massive claws left no mark at all, proving utterly useless against the gates. Blame yourself for being stuck here. Ignorant fool. You still don't realize that the world you live in is a world built on violence and lies. You know nothing about me, about the past. Even about yourself. I know enough to understand that we are stuck together, furball. Reason aside, neither of us can change the fact that you have been sealed into my gut. If you stop acting like a little kid and think for a change, you will notice that I am the prisoner of this situation as much as you are. Ha! You dare compare. I am a tailed beast, and I am stuck inside of an ignorant child. Do not speak of matters you can't even comprehend, human. Human. I have a name, you know. I know your name, I merely refuse to use it. Why is that? Seems kind of impolite. Do not apply your human morals and etiquette to me. Names carry meaning. To address one by his name is to show respect. I have no respect for you, human, thus your name has no meaning for me. You are merely a mortal shell that acts as my prison. Then why give me your chakra? Sounds stupid to give chakra to someone you don't care about. As I said, you are my prison. Untimely destruction of my prison might be of some inconvenience for me. Like what? You will die along with me? Death is an alien concept for me, human. I am not bound by something as trivial as mortality. Whatever. At least I have a name, furball. You humans are all the same. Those that came before and those that will come after you. Your whole species are plagued by one disease, by one major flaw that utterly sickens me. You all crave for power. I don't want your power. All I want is to leave peacefully and protect my friends. But for that you need power, human. Reasons and motives are irrelevant. We can't achieve their goals, but your kind is unable to be strong. You can only steal power from others. You see, human, even you are nothing more than a trump card for your village. A jinchuriki, a weapon that is supposed to wield power that does not belong to him. I am my own person, fox. You have one hell of a twisted view of the world. My opinion is backed up by years of experience. You humans view others either as obstacles or as means of becoming more powerful. I don't view you as any of those. But don't dare say that motives behind actions mean nothing. You speak as if you are all-powerful, but look around, you are stuck inside of me, and the one who did it was forced to do it in order to protect things he cared about, and he did it without any help. He used the power of Shinigami himself. I know, and I bet you know the price of doing that. How does being stuck in the belly of the god of death equals power, furball? You are strong, true, but your strength can be matched. By you? The fox for once seemed amused by such a statement. No. But where you will stand alone, I will have friends backing me up. That only proves my words, human. What you lack in skills and sheer power you try to compensate in numbers. Pathetic. Think what you want, fox. I wonder, was there a time when you had someone standing by your side instead of opposing you? I need no one to be by my side. I am beyond that. The fox declared and looked down at Naruto, who silently observed the giant creature. No wonder you have so much anger inside of you. You care for nothing and no one. You are alone. I've been alone for a long time, and I can tell that it is hell. Hell that drives you insane, that makes you hate everyone around you, everyone who has what you don't, and it is not fair that they can be happy when you can't. It is darkness that envelopes you and pulls you down, deeper and deeper. But I saw the light and it pulled me out. I have friends now, friends that kept me from becoming what you are now, a mass of anger that hates the world without trying to see beyond the veil of its own hatred. I am Uzumaki Naruto, and my name has meaning because there are those who remember it, those who speak it, those to whom it matters. That makes me feel alive, it makes me feel happy. You. I am me, because there are those who acknowledge me. Who acknowledges you, Fox? How dare you judge me? The fox once again slammed its claws against the gates trying to reach Naruto, but the little genin didn't even move. Why, did I hit a sore spot? Naruto took a step closer. I respect your power, but I have no respect for you, furball. I don't know if you have a name, but if you view everything and everyone in the world as mere nuisance, then I have no need to know if you even have a name. For a while the only sound that could be heard was the sound of the massive fox breathing while he and the genin stared at each. The silence was heavy and Naruto half expected for the fox to ram the gates once more in anger, but surprisingly that didn't happen. There was one of your kind, who I cared about. He is long gone, but he was far beyond what you humans are today. I felt no shame in calling him by his name, I felt no shame in respecting him. Then why not care for others? To care means to understand and be understood. For that to happen, individuals must be able to respect each other, and thus respect the opinion of each other. They must be comparable in the terms of power and their status. You think that someone weaker than you is not worth respect? A predator can't respect his prey, for then he will no longer be able to view it as food. But one predator can respect another. You are weak, human. I can't respect someone so far weaker than I. Ironically, I am also your prisoner. A jailer can't understand his prisoner. Leave now, human. I have grown tired of your presence. The fox slowly laid down, resting its massive head on his front paws. Fine, I am going. One thing though. The fox turned his gaze once more to Naruto as if allowing him to speak. You do have a name, right? I thought you didn't care if I did. True, but it would still be good to know. Just in case. Naruto grinned. Right now there is no reason for me to answer that question and no reason for you to hear it. Leave, I want to be at peace. Brag. Naruto sat up in his bed looking around wildly. He was back in his room and it was still dark, yet he no longer felt tired or wanted to sleep. Instead he was hungry. Ramen it is then. Naruto got off his bed and went to the kitchen where he always had a nice supply of instant ramen just for such an occasion. Of course instant ramen was far inferior to Ichiraku's ramen, but it was the next best thing. Now if only they invented a way to boil water quicker, because 3 whole minutes was just too much. What if I used the fireball technique? Naruto scratched his head in thought, but then decided that it was too much of a risk to use fire techniques inside of his apartment. Ramen or no ramen, Naruto didn't fancy getting his apartment burned to the ground. Sure, it wasn't a fancy place, but it was home. Shikamaru really would have no trouble sleeping in, but there were a few obstacles. One thing was that Asuma had set up an early meeting for Team 10 and Shikamaru somehow didn't want to upset Asuma. Another problem was Shikamaru's mom. She would have no trouble simply rolling him out of his bed and then he would still have to go to an early meeting, but would also be forced to endure her nagging him for being even lazier than his father. That would be such a drag. Breakfast was simple, yet being married to a ninja his mother knew how to make a meal that would last her son through most of the day. Besides, Shikamaru didn't have a tendency to overdo things. Alright, I'll be back later. Shikamaru sighed and put on his Chunin vest. Really, the thing was more trouble than it was worth. How on earth he even made Chunin remained a mystery. He wasn't trying to become one, yet somehow, using his own twisted logic, the third Hokage concluded that he would make a good Chunin. The old man probably outlived his sanity, though never in his life would Shikamaru openly say such a thing, especially in front of Sarutobi Hiruzen. Old yes, helpless no. The old Hokage perhaps lacked the stamina he had in his prime, but nobody could take away years upon years of experience and an arsenal of jutsu that even the famous copy ninja could not match yet. Yo! Shikamaru raised his hand, stepped into the clearing where Asuma and the rest of his teammates were already waiting for him. Almost late. Asuma lit another cigarette. Almost doesn't count. Shikamaru parried. So, Asuma-sensei, are we going to train or something? Chuji looked eager. The cuts his hands suffered during the mission were long history after a medical ninja did his job. But the young Akimichi now knew that fighting barehanded against people armed with sharp weapons was trickier than he thought, even if you could make your firsts enormous. Flesh was flesh and metal was metal. Metal had a tendency to win when the two came against each other. I am your sensei, training you is my job. I also think that so far I wasn't doing the best job. Your teamwork is excellent, No problem there, but there are certain areas where you could really use some improvement. Like what? Ino asked. First of all, stamina. Compared to other genin in your age group, your ability to last throughout prolonged periods of strenuous activity is quite limited. I am not, of course, talking about stamina freaks like Naruto, but even Sakura, Hinata, and Shino performed far better, showing far greater levels of endurance. Hey, I am not worse than Forehead, Ino objected. That is debatable, but knowing you, my words won't convince you. Asuma smirked. Fine, let's go find Team 7. A combined training with another team, sound fun. Chuji agreed. Naruto can be fun to hand around. I am not sure about Sasuke though, he is a bit of a… I don't know, not as friendly. Sasuke-kun is a talented ninja who is very serious about his job. Of course he is less of a good-off than Naruto. You should have seen him use his sword. He disarmed that Azwari bastard in only a few strikes. Yes, you've told us already. Shikamaru rolled his eyes. You are getting better, but it is a bit tricky. Kakashi nodded. Sasuke rubbed his head after using his Sharingan to dispel yet another illusion set up by Sakura. The girl was really getting a hang of using illusionary skills to disorient her opponents. Kakashi taught her enough techniques, and she herself could use them in a way that even noticing that you were already in an illusion was difficult. Sharingan proved an invaluable tool in identifying illusions, but understanding that you were trapped in one and getting one were very different things. As any skill, this required practice, and the Sharingan merely gave an advantage, it didn't allow you to become a master in an instant. Kakashi also explained that Sasuke had to completely understand the mechanics behind the genjutsu in order to eventually use the Sharingan to trap someone in one. In other words, there was no other way than the method of trial and error, and having a teammate capable of using various illusionary techniques was quite handy. If Naruto with his clones was a perfect sparring partner for taijutsu or ninjutsu practice, then Sakura was useful when it came to illusionary skills and tactical questions. Hey Sasuke-kun! Sasuke growled in annoyance, recognizing the voice. He then turned to Sakura. Did you invite them? No, I didn't. Sakura shook her head. Hey Ino Pig, what are you doing here? We are training. Relax, this isn't a private training ground. Asuma appeared next to Kakashi. Still a viable question. Kakashi turned to his fellow jounin. Well, I thought that it would be useful if our teams trained together for a bit. You know, the teamwork spirit you talk about. And why should I agree? Kakashi asked. Asuma rolled his eyes and then whispered something to the masked jounin. Ooh, a bonus edition? How? Ahem, my dad. Oh, right. He is his sensei, has special privileges. I refuse to train with them in order for you to get more smut to read. Sasuke raised his voice. Really, that is… humiliating. Sakura agreed. Please? Kakashi scratched the back of his head. No way! Both genin yelled. No Toro for 3 days. Deal! Both genin answered even faster than last time. Hey, where is Naruto? Chuji asked, looking around. Hey, right, where is that colorblind idiot? Ino nodded. Oh, Master Jiraiya wanted to train him for a few days. Kakashi replied with a shrug. You are just happy you have less work to do. Sakura turned to her sensei. That hurts, Sakura. Kakashi looked at her. But so true. So, we have a deal then. Asuma nodded. How about a spar? Sakura can go against Ino. Sure, why not? Kakashi agreed. Is this really necessary? Sakura frowned. Come on, Forehead, we both know who will win. Let us do it. You remember that this rivalry is not going to impress Sasuke, right? Alright, everyone back up, give them some room. Troublesome. This will be like last time, a pointless catfight. Shikamaru sat down under a tree. Who knows, they both might have improved. Chuji smiled. Want some? No thanks. Shikamaru shook his head when Chuji offered him some of his chips. Sakura wondered how this would go. The last time she and Ino fought was during the preliminaries of the Chunin Exams, and the fight ended in a double knockout. They were exactly evenly matched back then, so the very least this should show if they progressed any further. Whenever you are ready. Asuma lighted another cigarette and stepped back. As he expected, Ino immediately sprang into action with a swift kick that completely missed its target. Instead, Sakura went low and rammed her foot under Ino's knee, forcing the blonde to lose balance and land roughly. Ugh! Ino got up and attacked again. The first 2 strikes missed until Sakura grabbed Ino's stretched hand, twisting it and throwing the blonde once more to the ground. Sakura noticed that she acted almost instinctively, The gruesome hours of training with Toro taught her body to react to treats before her mind even understood what happened. Countering such basic attacks became almost akin to a reflex. I'll get you for that. Ino got up once more, but before she even made a step forward, her face met with a kick that made the blonde stumble to the side. Oh. That is called pain, Ino. Comes with us being ninjas. But. Ino wiped her mouth, noticing that there was blood coming from a busted lip. The last blow left her dazed, but now throbbing pain began to pass through the side of her face. All right, first blood. We can end it here. Kakashi turned to Asuma, and the other Jounin with a sigh placed a few banknotes into the stretched palm. It was fair enough. At least the humiliated Ino wasn't going to object to some harsher training now. An idea of being second to Sakura was bound to be a good motivator. Wait, you were betting? Sakura angrily approached Kakashi. I want my share then. Huh? Oh no, Asuma just borrowed some money earlier from me, didn't have enough for his cigarettes. Oh really? I am going to tell everyone you helped Jiraiya peep on women in the bathhouse. That is not true. And who will they believe? Innocent me, or a guy who reads smut in public? Touché. Sasuke nodded with a smirk, and Kakashi with some reluctance gave Sakura half of the money. Chapter 55. This was so great. Thanks, old man. Naruto leaned back with a satisfied grin, having just finished several bowls of his favorite dish. Long-term missions had a drawback of depriving his of a chance of eating Ichiraku's ramen as often as he would like to, but on the other hand such missions provided him with much more substantial income, so when he returned he could allow himself to really dig in. Anytime, Naruto. The old chef nodded while counting the money. Naruto was an excellent client. Not only did he order large meals, he always paid for those, or had someone with him willing to pay. Occasionally he also brought friends who perhaps didn't order as much, but were still welcome client. Besides, the old ramen chef simply liked the somewhat goofy genin. Hope you enjoyed your breakfast, Uzumaki. Time to get to work. Naruto turned around and saw Toro standing behind him. Where is Sasuke and Sakura? Kakashi made a deal with them, so for the next 3 days you are my only responsibility. What? How is that fair? Oh, come on, Naruto, don't be impolite. Who is your friend? I smiled. Naruto blinked and then realized that he never had Toro come to the Ichirakus before. Right. Toro, this is old man Ichiraku and they are super nice. Old man this is Toro, his is a total ass. Most of the time at least. You mean like your friend Sasuke? Giggled. No, he is a different kind of ass. Very interesting. The ramen chef smirked and looked at Toro. So, can I interest you in a nice hot bowl of ramen? I'll give you a discount since this is your first time here and you are Naruto's friend. I am not hungry, the archer stated simply. Pfft, you don't need to be hungry to enjoy good ramen. And here is the best ramen in Konoha, Naruto declared. I eat when I am hungry. Only when hungry? What are you, an animal? Naruto asked. Naruto, don't force people to eat when they don't want to. It can make even the best dish seem horrible. Here, have a discount coupon. Toro looked at the small slip of paper before finally pocketing it. If anything, it was a decent offer, and the old chef seemed reasonable enough. Thank you. Uzumaki, let's go. You will drag me away if I won't go? The archer didn't reply, but merely tilted his head to the side with a neutral expression. Right, I am going. Naruto slid off the chair and followed Toro with a pout. Soon enough they made to the same training ground where Jiraiya helped Naruto develop his new jutsu. A nearby tree also still had its bark on one side partially blasted off by Hinata's Juken strikes, who struggled with toning down the amount of damage she did. She didn't have much progress though, but Jiraiya never expected her to actually learn to control the powerful chakra output in a day. She at least released it in a less violent form now. Jiraiya told me about your new technique. Toro spoke once they reached their destination. Pervy Sage? Why did he tell you? Because you have no idea how to use it, he thought I could help. I know how to use. Naruto formed a seal and a moment later discharged a powerful sound wave that flew past Toro, forcing him to take a step to the side. And what do you know about this technique? Toro asked. What do you mean? It blasts stuff away, what is there to know? Right, I forgot that you are an idiot. You need to know the limits of this technique to know how to use it. What did I say about limitations? Right, one should know his limits and weak spots in order to work around them. The blonde genin sighed. He never managed to win a verbal battle with Toro regarding these matters. Correct. We will test your technique. Toro took a few steps back and slid into a solid stance as if preparing for an attack. Use it on me. You sure? Well, alright. Naruto once more formed a seal and then released a roar. The sound wave smashed into Toro and blasted the archer away. He went spinning through the air until he managed to actually land on his feet, sinking his fingers into the ground, tearing it up until he actually stopped himself from sliding further back. Naruto silently watched as the archer shook his head, getting rid of the mild ringing, but he seemed unharmed. He then came closer, but this time stopped some distance away. Again. Naruto shrugged and released another roar. The sound wave once more reached Toro, but this time Naruto saw how Toro merely was forced to stumble back a few steps. The archer then moved further back and Naruto released another roar. This time the effect merely resembled a strong gust of wind that didn't make Toro even move an inch. Care to make a conclusion? Toro once more approached Naruto. It has limited range? To be more precisely, it gradually loses power over distance. At close ranges, especially when fired point blank, your technique can have a truly devastating effect. At medium ranges it is already fairly useless as an offensive technique, but can be used to deflect projectiles, especially those with low mass, like the basic kunai or shuriken. At long ranges your new technique is a waste of chakra. Tisk, well, it still can be useful, I just have to think? Yeah. I know, I always have to think and not just charge into things. So what now? As I said, deflecting basic kunai or shuriken should be easy, but what about something that packs more of a punch? Toro took his bow off his back and Naruto paled. No way am I standing in the way of that thing when you fire it at me. Just make a shadow clone. They can also perform your techniques. Oh right. Yet another reason why the shadow clone jutsu is awesome. Hinata-sama. The heiress of the Hyuga clan looked up when she heard the familiar voice. She was busy preparing another batch of her salve as most of it got used up during the latest mission. The process also helped her calm down and for the time being forget about the things that troubled her. In a way it was the reason why she also had a good supply of it made. Yes? Hinata gave Neji a small smile. He still wasn't exactly friendly, but at least he wasn't hostile. He actually seemed to a degree conflicted as he still hasn't been able to come to terms with some of the events of his past. It was understandable, nobody could just instantly change his or her view of the world, as it was often a painful process. Yet she knew Neji was strong, not just as a ninja. Hinata felt that he learned to his father's choice and at the same time truly accept her as family. Your father requests your presence. Oh. Did he say why? No, but I think it has something to do with the style you are developing and your performance during the latest mission. Some parts are intriguing. I understand. Hinata stood up after wiping her hands clean. Is something wrong? It is just not the best time. Hinata replied and Neji raised an eyebrow. This wasn't something he expected to hear, but still silently followed Hinata. As expected, the head of the clan was waiting in one of the training rooms, designed for practicing juken and other forms of ninja arts that didn't require an open space. You wanted to see me, father? The girl asked after a polite bow. After all, the Hyugas were known for their strict rules of proper conduct. That I did. How is your training coming along? I feel I am improving. The answer came fast and showed an unusual degree of confidence. It was unusual to see such traits in the timid girl. Would you care to demonstrate? It still needs work. I don't expect you to show me a complete variant of your style, but I need to study your development in order to judge its potential. I of course will not approve of you wasting time. Yes, father. I feel that currently Neji is superior to you in terms of skill, so he should be an excellent test for you. For now I would like to see the defensive capabilities you now have. Neji. Yes, Hayashi-sama. Neji nodded and slid into the basic juken stance, but waited until Hinata slid into hers. It looked different. It didn't seem as solid. At first glance it seemed that knocking her over would be an easy task, but at the same time Hinata's body now resembled a spring, while her rather widely spread hands seemed to almost invite him to attack. The first blow missed as Hinata took a step back. Flowing, elegant moves seemed to help the agile girl flow around the fast, rigid juken strikes, each blow missing, if only narrowly. Hayashi leaned closer, wondering how long would this last. The one preferring to dodge was bound to retreat under the barrage of strikes, yet despite obvious difficulty Hinata seemed capable of retaining her position closer to the center of the room. What was also different was the way Hinata held herself. Whenever she used the usual juken form she seemed stressed, as if using something that opposed her on some inner, deeper level that was invisible even to the advanced sight of the Byakugan. No, she looked peaceful, like she was dancing following the rhythm she had set up. The effect was almost hypnotizing, and then Hayashi to his surprise realized two things that at first escaped his attention. First of all, the rhythm. For some reason it was Neji who was following Hinata's rhythm despite being on the attack. Her evasive actions threw the young Hyuga off balance. They forced him to adapt another combination of strikes that secured his position, yet forced him to follow the movements of his opponent. Usually an attacker forced the one on defensive to react, but here, without even attempting to strike, Hinata was forcing her far more skilled cousin to play by her rules. The second part was even more shocking. Hinata didn't have her Byakugan active. For a Hyuga to attempt fighting without using their prized bloodline was unheard of. Stop! Hayashi raised his hands and the two combatants stepped aside, with Neji retaining a slightly confused expression as he looked at his cousin. Your technique is very unusual and had to understand. Hayashi rubbed his chin. I can't argue with its effectiveness, but I think that to be used efficiently it requires not only natural agility, but also a certain state of mind. I don't know if Neji or even myself will ever be able to even grasp its concept. But I have to ask, why didn't you use the Byakugan? It was a pointless waste of C chakra. Excuse me? I didn't need it to follow Neji's movements. Hinata began explaining. He is stronger T than me, B, but since I didn't use any chakra I would have lasted longer. But you will require it to attack. Why yes. Show me. The offensive P part is not ready yet. I insist, Hinata. No. Hayashi couldn't remember that last time Hinata openly refused to carry out his instructions. Something was going on and Hayashi wasn't sure if it was a good thing. His daughter was changing, but on a level he couldn't understand. If that is your choice, then I am afraid I will have to force you to show me your potential. Hinata barely reacted when her father lashed out with a palm strike she evaded by rolling to the side. Father? Defense can be breached. Show me if you can stop an attacker capable of it. No, I can't. Hinata struggled under the relentless attacks from her father that was a master of Juken with years of experience. It took him some time, but he eventually scored a solid blow throwing Hinata onto her back. Avoiding won't work. You have to take actions, Hinata. Hayashi attacked again once his daughter got up, yet despite suffering 2 more blows she didn't step away from her tactics. I said I can't. You must. You don't understand. Hinata allowed blow moved past her, but then suffered another strong strike to the chest that threw her against the wall. Do not disappoint me, Hinata. Hayashi couldn't understand why she was so determined not to attack him. It clearly wasn't fear or her dislike for violence. It was something else, and he was going to find out what it was. Tisk. Hayashi's next blow was pushed to the side by Hinata's hand, forcing him to hit the wall next to her head. The next moment the head of the Hyuga clan cringed from pain when Hinata's fingers curled around his hand in a grip strong enough to cause him pain. You don't listen. Hinata looked up, her Byakugan coming to life following her will alone. The chakra flow in her body intensified, and to his shock Hayashi saw glimpses, small strands of reddish chakra appearing in her hands. What? Neji, who before observed the fight with clear worry, now witnessed how Hayashi ripped his hand out of Hinata's grip, taking a step back. You never listen. Hinata sprang into action, her whole body language changing in an instant. Her gently flowing style from before now was used as a monstrous combination of elegance and fury. Hayashi blocked the first few strikes, and his hands exploded in pain, while the immense output of concentrate chakra used for Juken's simple burned through his clothes and left chakra burns on his arms. To think that his daughter could achieve such an effect seemed impossible. You look past me. Hinata kept attacking, her gentle face twisted into a mask of uncontrolled anger. You never hear me. Hayashi kept retreating from shock. You don't notice me. Neji didn't know if he should intervene, but he admitted to himself that the sudden change Hinata demonstrated terrified him. As if I am not worth it. Hinata twisted past Hayashi's attempt to counter her attacks, and with a single move pushed his hands apart with her elbows, sliding into his guard. For the first time in years the head of the Hyuga clan found his guard penetrated. Hinata! Hayashi opened his mouth just before his daughter delivered a double palm strike to his stomach. Neji for a moment was blinded by an output of chakra and then saw how Hayashi flew past him, smashing into the opposite wall with enough force to make the whole room shake. Surprisingly, even after such a blow the head of the Hyuga clan remained standing, though he had to lean on the wall for support. Hinata remained standing in the middle of the room, but the violent flow of chakra calmed down as she began to visibly calm down. She looked at her hands and then looked up at her father. He looked at her with an expression of mixed shock, fear and worry, while the robes covering his stomach nose supported a huge hole that was burned through by concentrated chakra. Why you never listen? Hinata asked with the tears appearing in her eyes. Hayashi wanted to say something, but then saw how Hinata collapsed face down. Hinata, The head of the Hyuga clan made a step forward and fell down to his knees. Neji, check on Hinata. Hayashi ordered and coughed, a few drops of blood flying out of his mouth and landing on the floor in front of him. Such damage with a single blow. The chakra network around the point of impact now was a complete mess, and he now most likely suffered from internal bleeding. She is just unconscious, Neji said once he checked the girl. Call for help, Neji. I think I need to get to the hospital. I want Hinata to be checked over too. Yes, Hayashi-sama. Neji prepared to leave. Tell someone to also find Master Jiraiya. Naruto found that Toro kept reusing the single arrow he created. It was logical. After all, Toro explained that he could only make a limited amount of bone weapons. And the fact that Toro could endure the painful process without showing any discomfort never meant that the archer actually enjoyed using it. The first clones that tried using the new technique got hit despite their best efforts. They simply used the jutsu too early, and it didn't do much to weaken the power generated by Toro's powerful bow. As a result, the arrow usually just pierced the clone and went onward, with the clone exploding into a puff of smoke a few seconds later. Naruto always was left with an urge to scratch his chest as if he was the one who actually got hit. He eventually did manage to time the release of his jutsu correctly for it to pack enough of a punch to deflect the bone arrow, but that forced his to wait to the last possible moment. Toro was right, the correct use of this jutsu required training in order to not screw up when it really counted. Naruto was also happy since for once he didn't end up with a bunch of bruises after training with Toro, though watching his clones getting brutally killed by arrows was to a degree a traumatizing experience. You could probably find Tenten. She could provide you with more practice in the use of your ability. Sure, she is great at throwing stuff. Hey, I didn't name the jutsu yet. Toro clearly wasn't convinced that it was all that important, but then shrugged, admitting that a name would be useful. Uzumaki's shout? No, Toro said blankly. Right, sounds silly. Oh, I know. Tailed beast roar. Better. The archer admitted, and before they could say anything else an Anbu appeared before them, as always without any warning. Chapter 56. Alright, what's so important that you had to ruin my research? Not every day do I get a chance to use such high-quality material for inspiration, so it is better be good. Jiraiya, I am not in the mood. Tsunade glared at her teammate, who merely waved her off. You are never in the mood. Even when you are drunk. Not now, Jiraiya. Hiruzen spoke calmly, but the third Hokage still had the authority that made his former students close their mouths. We have a matter to discuss, but we are still missing a certain someone. Shu's input might be crucial. Just then the doors to the Hokage's offices opened and Naruto walked in, or rather was pushed in by an Anbu operative. Watch it, I know how to walk through the door. Naruto frowned, but the Anbu disappeared almost immediately once his task was complete. The blonde genin then looked at those present. He expected to see Tsunade and Old Man Hokage. Even Jiraiya was a common face here, but it took Naruto a few moments to recognize Hayashi. The head of the Hyuga clan was sitting in one of the armchairs. His eyes seemed to pierce Naruto, but the fearsome gaze did little to intimidate the Jinchuriki, who after a moment turned away from the head of the famous clan. So, Granny, why am I here? A good question, Tsunade, wondering the same thing. Jiraiya nodded. If this perv got caught sneaking a peek on someone from the Hyuga clan, then I had nothing to do with it. Naruto shook his head. No, it is not about that, Naruto. Hiruzen smiled, being slightly amused by Naruto's guess. It wasn't exactly an unreasonable theory. It has something to do with one of your fellow genin. Hyuga Hinata. Oh. Naruto suddenly became very quiet. It almost seemed like his usual orange jumpsuit had lost a bit of its color. She got into some kind of trouble? Let's say she suffered an accident during training due to some unforeseen circumstances. Yes, you see, Naruto, during training Hinata used small amounts of chakra that didn't belong to her. I think we both know what Hayashi saw. Tsunade leaned closer. She was also unnaturally aggressive and actually injured her father during training. Really? Naruto raised an eyebrow and turned to Hayashi. So, what did you do to piss off someone like Hinata? Naruto. Hiruzen narrowed his eyes. Don't look at me like that, old man. Unlike you, I know how that chakra works. You mastered enough jutsu to be a walking library, but you know squat about having a tailed beast sealed up in your gut. That chakra can only influence you when someone truly pisses you off. That is true. Jiraiya nodded. The chakra of the tailed beast tends to act up only when the Jinchuriki is under severe emotional stress. I studied whatever information I could find regarding these questions. I suppose you could say that my actions might have provoked a negative reaction out of my daughter, Hayashi admitted with obvious reluctance. Tsunade quickly patched up his wounds, but her still couldn't stand without scowling from pain. Still, he preferred to be here, instead of staying at the hospital where Shizune was running tests on Hinata. Then don't whine about her kicking your ass. Naruto glared at the Hyuga. It is not about Hinata actually fighting back, Naruto, it is about that chakra, Tsunade mentioned. Why do you act so surprised? The perv here said that he understood what happened to Hinata after he discussed our mission with you. Jiraiya. Tsunade turned to her teammate with a glare and cracked her knuckles. Right about that. You see, when I dropped by you were asleep on a pile of your paperwork. I wanted to. Not important. And noticed the mission report on the desk, so I read through it and went to find this brat and the Hyuga brat. And you didn't tell us anything about your findings because I was going to, but then I remembered I had something to do. You forgot? Hey, men tend to forget stuff when they see a good-looking lady. You were sidetracked by some pretty girl? Tsunade stood up in fury. Pretty? No, of course not. She was gorgeous. The next moment Jiraiya got hit in the head by some book that a moment ago was on Tsunade's desk. Turned out to be a rather thick tome on known antidotes that Shizune left there. Oh. Watch it, woman! Jiraiya sat up rubbing his bruised forehead. Shut it, perv, or else she will throw that desk at you. Naruto rolled his eyes. You know that she has a lousy temper and… Umph! Naruto fell down next to Jiraiya after Tsunade threw a scroll with a long mission report at him. Tsunade. Hiruzen shifted slightly in his spot, and the famous medical ninja sat down with a huff. Could we please stop this nonsense? Hayashi spoke. I want to know how come my daughter was capable of wielding the chakra of the fox. I'll explain if that woman stops throwing stuff at me. Jiraiya dusted himself. Your daughter shaped the fox's chakra when her own reserves were nearly depleted. As such, the very potent chakra entered the chakra points in her hands, and since there wasn't any of her own chakra to act as a natural shield, those chakra points are now able to release mild amount of fox's chakra whenever her own chakra passes through them, and it so happens that those chakra points are required to actively utilize Jukin. Is there some kind of a remedy for that? You speak as if having that chakra is some sort of a disease. Naruto glared and the older Hyuga. Uzumaki, I am afraid that you don't understand. No! It is you who doesn't understand. Nobody here but me can understand that. Naruto, calm down. Hiruzen stepped forward, but stopped in his tracks when Naruto turned to him with a very cold expression. The old Hokage clearly got the warning when the blue eyes flashed red as if telling him to remain silent. Nobody here is able to understand that. Nobody was ever willing to even try. The villagers are not the most understanding folk, wouldn't you say, old man? I suppose. The old Hokage looked away, unable to say anything in his defense. Damn it! You all can see only this chakra, but not the one behind it. All you see is power that you can't understand and thus fear. Curse it all, because right now you are actually proving the fox right. We humans are not even worth to be called by our names. You are taking it a bit too far, Uzumaki. Hayashi stood ignoring the pain in his gut. Says the one who sits here discussing the fox's chakra while his daughter is in the hospital. I am here because I am concerned for her well-being. Like hell you are. All you care is your clan and your eyes. Well, let me remind you of what happened to one clan with special eyes. One of them butchered them all except for one person who happens to be my teammate. I can see that pain in him even now. What reason does Hinata have to not become a second Itachi? After all, she has the means to do it now. Do not speak of that. Hayashi inhaled sharply when he heard that. Am I lying? Hayashi didn't reply, instead kept looking into those blue eyes that no so long ago lost their reddish tint. He wanted to tell the young Jinchuriki to stay silent, but he found nothing in his words that wasn't actually true, so after a short while the head of the Hyuga clan did something he didn't do in a long time. He turned away in shame. I am going. Where? Tsunade asked from behind her desk. To where he should be. Naruto angrily pointed at Hayashi. Nobody stopped the young Jinchuriki when he marched out of the Hokage's offices and made his way down into the streets below. Calm yourself. Naruto stumbled when he heard the familiar voice. I have no desire to be calm, Toro. He had no idea why the archer decided to follow him here. Whatever it is, handle it with a leveled head, Uzumaki. You can't understand this. Perhaps, just as you can't understand me. But I know you well enough to know that there are very few things that can make you this angry. Someone you care about is in trouble. Something like that. Naruto admitted after taking a few deep breaths. So, what are you going to do? Drag me away for more training? Do you need anyone informed? Huh. I don't have a habit of repeating myself, Uzumaki. I thought I told you that already. Could you find members of Team 8 and tell them that Hinata is in hospital? Don't expect such favors often, Uzumaki. As you say. Naruto turned around and began running in the direction of the hospital, but in a moment stopped turning around. But Toro was no longer standing where he was a moment ago. And thanks. Naruto smiled and ran off once again. What happened? The door burst open and Kiba rushed into the room, followed by Kurenai and finally Shino, who with a sigh closed the door that now had a mark left after Kiba kicked it open. Wah! Something orange fell to the ground along with a chair with a bowl landing shortly after. What gives, Kiba? This is a hospital, you don't come rushing inside yelling. Even I know that. Naruto stood up with a bowl of ramen on his head, resembled some sort of a helmet, while his orange jumpsuit was now covered in broth and noodles. And look what you made me do. This was perfectly good ramen. I spent my 2 discount coupons on it. It is much better than hospital food, Hinata admitted and settled aside her half-finished bowl. Naruto came around half an hour ago. She was surprised that he was there, but then again, knowing him wasn't surprised that he was concerned. He didn't ask about what happened, so she guessed she knew. Instead he talked about how Toro made him practice his new jutsu and how awesome it was. Listening to him was funny and for a short while made the girl forget about the reason why she was in the hospital. Shizune never managed to find anything wrong with her, so just made her stay until the rest of the day, just in case. Heh, no, you don't just smell like ramen, you look like one. Kiba laughed. Hinata, what happened? That Toro guy didn't explain anything, just came, said you were in hospital and left. Kurenai approached her student. I am fine, just training accident. Hinata spoke. You should be more careful. Kiba frowned. It isn't good for you to end up in hospital after training. Oh, why is Shino afraid of Toro? I do not fear that ninja. Shino turned to Kiba. He merely keeps me on edge. After all, he is a very dangerous person. Right, I believe you. Kiba nodded with a smirk, while Akamaru barked something from his spot on Kiba's head. The puppy then jumped down on Hinata's bed and settled down on her lap. You do realize you are the only one he acts like that around? Kiba sighed. Like a puppy? Hinata looked at Kiba. He is a ninja dog and my partner, he shouldn't act like a house pet. Bark, bark. I don't care that her hands are soft, hold your act together, Akamaru. Grr. You wouldn't dare. Bark. That is low, buddy. Fine, you win this once. Whoa, I can see who is the boss in your duo. Naruto scratched his head. What was that? Kiba growled. Kiba, please do not be offended by Naruto's comments that to a certain degree are indeed accurate. Sure, what you said. Kiba blinked after several moments of silence that made Hinata giggle. She lowered her hand at the moment, and Akamaru took the moment to sniff it, before looking up at Hinata questionably. What is it, boy? Kiba noticed Akamaru's unusual behavior. The little dog whined something in response. Different? Different how? That makes no sense. What makes no sense? Kurenai asked with clear concern. Just that Hinata feels slightly different. We all change with time, Kurenai-sensei. Hinata mentioned, and something in those words and Hinata's tone forced Kurenai to avoid further questions, at least for now. Ahem. Everyone present turned and saw Hayashi standing in the doorway. I would like to speak with my daughter. I would prefer not to speak with my father. One could probably hear a pin drop at the moment as the remaining members of Team 8 looked at Hinata with wide eyes, Akamaru included. I see. Hayashi sighed. Then I will be the only one speaking, I only ask you to listen. Hinata didn't show in any way that she heard her father, but didn't reject his offer either. Let's go everyone, you too, Naruto. You don't need to tell me, I know. Naruto left the room along with Kurenai and her students, leaving Hinata alone with her father. Quite a remarkable person, Uzumaki Naruto. Hayashi sat down on the bed opposite of Hinata. After he defeated Neji, I thought that would be the one and only time he managed to surprise me. Yet today he achieved that again. Strange, he has some sort of a talent to make people listen to him and see things from his point of view. I can't remember anyone with a similar talent. Hayashi looked at his daughter, but she just sat there silently. You are angry. I admit that I wanted you to show anger and confidence that I thought would make you stronger. I never thought I would become the source and target of your anger. I wanted you to be perfect, I viewed you as an heiress to the clan and never looked beyond that. That must be why you feel you have something in common with Uzumaki Naruto. As you were never viewed as anything more than the heiress, he was never viewed as anything more than a Jinchuriki, only less. He helped you. He has always been helping me, merely by existing, merely by staying loyal to himself. Hayashi heard his daughter speak, but it felt like those words weren't exactly addressed to him. He gave you hope and the example you required. If I remember correctly, you even accepted his nindo as your own. You yourself found something that made you stronger and clung to it with whatever strength you could muster, and in the end, you ended up sharing his curse. It is not his curse. It is the curse others enforced upon him as they were unable to resist it themselves. You gave you the right to name others cursed, to call your relatives servants, to call your daughter weak? The power of the nine-tailed fox is not a curse, father, the ignorance of people is the curse that plagues this world. You glorify power you wield, you fear the power that stays out of your grasp and condemn those who wield it. Well, I'll gladly wield it, I'll learn to wield it for I don't fear it. Hayashi leaned back feeling as if an invisible hand had slapped him. His daughter barely moved, but her voice held tones of confidence, completely removing her usual shyness and stutter, even if only for this emotional moment. I am sorry, Hinata. Too late. I wanted to make you proud, to make you love me. I wanted you to be my father, not just the head of a clan. Hinata, I do care. Maybe you do, I don't know. All I know is that you never showed it, never shared it. I am tired of waiting and hoping for it. Even if you do love me as your daughter, I no longer care for that love. Hayashi visibly paled at that declaration, but he couldn't blame his daughter for such a decision either. After a moment he stood up and left silently. For now there was nothing more to say. But perhaps there was something he could do. It was already getting dark by the time Hinata returned to the Hyuga clan estate. Shizune found no reason to force her to stay for any longer. Strangely, Hinata felt tired despite spending half a day in bed. Most likely it wasn't physical strain, but emotional stress. But on the other hand, Hinata felt strange, like she dropped some enormous weight off her shoulders, or broke shackles binding her. Father looked upset. Hinata was about to enter her room when she heard the voice. Her sister came out from around the corner. I suppose there are reasons for that. Not disappointed, he was sad. Hanabi specified. What do you want, Hanabi? I want to know what is going on. Maybe someday I will tell you. Hinata opened the door to her room and walked inside. Or maybe I won't. The door closed, leaving the speechless Hanabi standing in the hallway. Ow. Hinata didn't look when she slumped down on her bed and immediately rolled to the side, feeling something rough under her back. It turned out to be a relatively thick scroll with a note attached. With some interest the young heiress looked through the note. I know that right now you will not accept whatever help I will offer. Perhaps the technique of my late brother will serve you better. Uncle Hisashi? Hinata held up the scroll. In her opinion, Neji was supposed to be the one to get this, but then again, looking through it couldn't hurt. So Hinata took a more comfortable position and unrolled the scroll. Chapter 57. Naruto didn't have a habit of keeping his apartment tidy. Nobody actually expected him to, but at the very least he never allowed it to turn into a dump, at least not often. He also long since learned to check the expiry dates on his food, especially milk. Still, discarded clothes, empty ramen bowls, a pile of unwashed dishes was the usual picture in this particular apartment. The only thing that was kept in perfect order was Naruto's ninja gear. Kunai and shuriken holsters, ninja wire, anything he usually took along for the missions was sorted perfectly and ready to be used. Who is here? Naruto had just returned to his apartment and slowly reached for a kunai the moment he was in his bedroom. Oh, it is you, old man. You're really far more aware of your surroundings now. What gave me away? Hiruzen Sarutobi blurred into vision in the corner of the room, dressed in usual attire minus the Hokage hat. It smells like your office now and I don't smoke. Could have been my son, he smokes too. Hiruzen once again lighted his pipe. Asuma-sensei? Noah can tell the difference between his cigarettes and the tobacco you use. Really? His cigarettes make my nose itch. Oh. Hiruzen chuckled. So, why did you decide to drop by? You kind of lost the habit of doing that ever since I became genin. Naruto unzipped his orange jacket and threw it to the bed, staying in his pants and black t-shirt with a red flame motif. Well, being a genin you didn't need some feeble old man checking on you. Hiruzen shrugged without mentioning his crystal ball that he still used to keep an eye on things, Naruto included. You are old, but not feeble. Naruto objected. But really, why are you here? Take a wild guess. About me losing my temper today in your office? Close enough, though you could start referring to it as Tsunade's office. I will transfer all of my duties to her soon enough. I'll just stick with Hokage's office. So the old lady threw a fit after I left? No, we still had a few questions to discuss with Hayashi after your emotional speech and verbal attack on the head of the Hyuga clan. Since when did I care about people being from some clan? You should start caring if you want to become Hokage one day, Naruto. You see, the Kage isn't just a strong ninja who gives out orders, he also has to remain political and social stability in the village, and that sometimes requires taking actions that could leave a very bad taste in your mouth. And lifelong regrets. Sorry. It is just that, everyone has a snapping point. I can handle when people hate me for being the host of the Fox, but Hinata isn't at fault here. I snapped back there because most of all I was angry at myself for things turning out this way. I shouldn't have allowed her to handle that chakra, and now her whole life is messed up. You do like to simplify things, Naruto. Much of what you said earlier and are saying now are true, but you lack a certain perspective that comes only with age and experience. You are right, I can't really understand what it is like to be a Jinchuriki and have the chakra of the tailed beast coursing through my body, but I know the feeling of guilt, hatred, remorse, and unlike you I know how to keep them in check. The old Hokage leaned close and Naruto gulped when Hiruzen allowed that aura of authority and power wash over the genin. What will happen to Hinata now? It was decided that for a while she will be taken off active duty. Shizune will draw up false documentation that will give medical grounds for such a decision in order to prevent the knowledge about her condition spreading, at least for now. She will have to train in order to learn to fully control the intensified chakra output and her overall increased chakra circulation. Jiraiya will provide assistance and you as well, and that is in order, Naruto. How can I help? I know nothing about using Jukin. But you know how to handle that chakra and in far greater amounts. The difference is that you grew up with that chakra, your whole body, your chakra network can easily withstand the strain, but Hinata has to adapt from lowest possible point. You also, as you said yourself, are capable of understanding the way it feels when you use that chakra. Yeah. It gives out that burning sensation and… Yes, keep going. Hiruzen sat down on a nearby chair, listening carefully. You get that feeling of power, like you can crush rocks, smash through walls, kill without any effort at all. You can fight like a beast and you can enjoy it. You are fueled by fury and you see everything through a red tint. Those who oppose you must fall, those who wronged you must pay and pay dearly. You are a creature of vengeance with the whole world there to face your wrath. I can only imagine how hard it is to control yourself in such a state. Actually, it isn't that hard once you learn to focus that anger on a single target. Sort of giving that power a direction to follow, and then you can shape and use it at your will. Imagine Hinata getting a glimpse of that. Hiruzen leaned back. We all have our darker side, Naruto, and Hinata's perhaps is stronger and darker than most, kept at bay only by her gentle nature and her dislike of violence. Now if we had that chakra, no matter how little, it could work as a catalyst for a reaction that will go out of control. Whatever dark and violent thoughts she had, they found their way out, and she unleashed them against the one who caused her grief. You see, it wasn't the fox's chakra that made Hinata harm her father. Hinata wanted to do it, deep inside, and that chakra merely gave her the opportunity. That is what Hayashi was unable to understand. Hinata hasn't changed, she merely acted out, revealed that part of her she kept suppressed. She has no regrets about attacking her father and about wielding that chakra. If anything, she is grateful for that. But aren't we supposed to, I don't know, suppress such dark desires? Like you do? Hiruzen shifted slightly in his seat. You do have many reasons to hate this village. I don't want to become some vengeful beast. I want to prove everyone who called me a monster wrong. And Hinata wants to prove wrong everyone who called her weak. So you see, Naruto, I don't know how the chakra of the tailed beast works, but I know something else. I know how people work. Hiruzen stood up and poked Naruto in the forehead. I made mistakes in my life, Naruto, but either have already answered for them, or will answer in the next life. But I know many things you haven't even got a slightest idea about. Thanks, old man. Oh, right before I leave, Tsunade asked me to give you a message. You have a personal D-rank mission for tomorrow to clean out the sewers under District 14, and then you and your team can expect being stuck on minor assignments for a week or two. Oh man, Sakura and Sasuke are going to kill me. Naruto grabbed his head. Another lesson, Naruto, even if you feel your actions are just, they can have the most severe of consequences. That is a lesson Hayashi learned years ago. What happened? He saved his daughter, and was forced to let his brother die. Think about it, Naruto. Actions can have consequences, even if you think you are doing the right thing. The old Hokage smiled and then disappeared without a trace. Kurenai, right on time. Tsunade looked up when she heard the Genjutsu mistress come in. There is a mission for you. Not a hard one, but a bit time-consuming. Be ranked. Of course. About my gen and team. They will be fine. Hinata is off duty for now, so you are a team member short as it is. Kiba and Shino will have no trouble training in their clan techniques for a few days, so you are the best jounin available. You will have a team consisting of Mitarashi, Anko, and Toro. That is a strange team. Kurenai didn't know what else to say. She knew Anko and worked with her before, so she knew what to expect. As for Toro, she knew practically nothing about him aside from him being a capable and ruthless shinobi. The team was picked due to the nature of assignment. You will travel to the ninja prison. Officially, your task is to merely inspect the facility and ensure that it is perfectly secure. Once you see the warden, give him this scroll. He will grant you access to highest security section so that Anko would be able to interrogate one of the prisoners there. We found some new information on Orochimaru's operations and want to see if she will be able to confirm it. That foul-mouthed sound, Kunoichi? Kurenai remembered. Yes. Ibiki already worked with her, but she is a stubborn one and it is hard to break her mentally due to the influence of the cursed seal. Jiraiya did create several chakra suppression seals on her, but we still don't completely understand how that thing works. So Toro is coming along before he could provide some useful input as he knows that sound ninja personally. Yes. Yes, Lady Tsunade. Kurenai bowed and left to prepare. Enough reading, time to learn something. Hinata nearly jumped up when she had the loud, familiar voice addressing her. She was busy reading through the scroll she found before on her bed and never noticed Jiraiya appeared behind her while she was sitting on a bench in the small garden behind the Hyuga clan estate. And Master Jiraiya? Hinata quickly rolled up the scroll. Yeah, the one and only Toad Mountain Sage at your service. Your father allowed me to come whenever I deem necessary, though not after it gets dark. My father? Hinata nodded after a moment. Anyway, before you learn to use your new ability, you have to understand how it works. Why yes. Hinata sat down once again getting ready to listen. You know what is chakra, right? It is an internal energy, a C combination of our spiritual and P physical aspects. Spot on. Hey, it is nice to teach someone who at least knows the basics unlike a goofy blonde genin I know. Anyway, the chakra of the fox is very potent, due to it originally coming from a creature of immense physical might, and no less powerful spirit capable of manifesting itself in the feelings of primal rage and fury. Please go on. Thus when Naruto uses that chakra, the enormous physical aspect of that chakra increases his speed and overall strength, agility, grants him faster reaction time and so on. Basically it increases every physical aspect. Now the spiritual component works on different level. The fox houses great rage, but being a tailed beast it is more than capable of keeping it fully under control. When a Naruto uses that chakra it forces those feelings of rage and fury to surface, playing on his darkest thoughts, memories of grief, sorrow and desire for vengeance. The same happens to you, but on a much lower scale, but unlike Naruto, you haven't grown up with that chakra. Is it bad? Well, think of it this way. If you drink poison in very tiny amounts you can eventually develop tolerance for the stuff. Same with chakra. Naruto can use enormous amounts of that chakra and still be able to maintain control. For you even the small amount you have in your hands can already result in an overdose. Then what do I do? Same thing Naruto learned to do. Focusing anger on a single target in order to maintain control. Even Naruto has not yet developed an ability to use that chakra without a target. He can't just use it, he has to use it against someone, or something. That is why that chakra never manifests outside some sort of conflict. But I have no seal or anything. Well, of course you don't have the fox itself to keep at bay. If you did, he'd already overpower your mind and send you on a rampage. Naruto's seal doesn't allow the fox to easily influence his personality. It can only work through the chakra that is allowed to leak through. But enough talking, ready to work? Yes. Hinata stood up with her Byakugan coming alive. Hello, where is Anko? Kurenai only saw Toro standing by the gates wearing his usual attire with a cloth mask loosely hugging the lower part of his face. Here I am. The bloodthirsty snake mistress dropped down from a nearby roof with a stick of dango in her hand. Sorry it smelled too good, I had to stop by. Right. Kurenai rolled her eyes. She herself was a professional ninja and never allowed such foolishness. Perhaps that was the reason she became jounin at a relatively young age. I'd offer you some, but I ate it all. So, Anko swiftly ate the dango she had left and threw the stick away without looking, forcing Toro to tilt his head in order to let it fly by harmlessly. Oh, aren't you quick to react? Anko blurred out of the way and appeared behind the archer with a kunai pressed against his neck. I wonder how your blood tastes. You mannerism have much in common with Orochimaru. Toro spoke, not moving an inch or showing any distress of having a razor-sharp weapon pressed against his neck. Well, of course, after all I had to pick something up after my dear old sensei. Anko smirked. But you don't have his lack of any moral limits. What makes you say that? I might be just as crazy. If Orochimaru wants someone to bleed, they bleed right there unless they can prove useful or amusing. Spot on. But one thing. Compare me with that man once more and I will kill you on the spot. Then we will both die. Anko looked down and saw a thick white bone appear from Toro's elbow, stopping inches away from piercing her chest. That would be such a waste. Anko laughed and pulled back. I think we will be able to work together. I hate guys that whine and soil their pants the moment they have cold metal pressed against their throats. Pfft. Anko, with your reputation, half of the people are ready to soil themselves when you walk down the street, especially when you are humming a tune. What is wrong when I am humming a tune? Anko raised an eyebrow while swirling a kunai on her index finger. Toro, in the meantime, pulled out the bone out of his elbow and hid it in his pouch. When you hum a tune, it means you are in a good mood, and that means two possibilities. Either you got a good deal on dango, or you killed someone. Who says it can't be both? Hey, Toro, right? Would you kill someone while eating dango? No. Why not? Wouldn't have an appetite. I am not a fan of sweets. You don't know what you are missing. I am telling you should try it one day. Things like that stick to you. I don't know which one of you creeps me out more? Kurenai sighed. Ah, Kurenai-chan is scared by a creepy snake lady and a bone freak? We are the creepy duo. Anko punched air with a rather disturbed expression. Guess it is a common trait of all who had something to do with Orochimaru. Toro nodded after a moment. Don't worry, Kurenai-chan, we don't bite. Anko grinned. Anko, you do bite. Kurenai said blankly. Remember that one mission when you... Ah, memories. All right, let's move out. Anko, I am the mission leader. Kurenai frowned, looking at her partner. Oh, all right, let's imagine you said that and still get going, all right? Standing here is getting boring. Traveling to the prison will not amuse you either. Toro walked past Anko without looking at her. Not if I trip and you fall down. You might even break something. I won't. What if I help? Please stop that. This is getting annoying. Kurenai rubbed her forehead. See, that is already getting funny. Anko grinned and followed Kurenai and Toro, both of whom jumped into the trees the moment they walked through the gates. Despite her threats, Anko didn't do anything while they were traveling to the ninja prison of the Land of Fire. That place was basically a fortress, but unlike other strongholds that were designed to not let others get inside, this one was made to prevent others from getting outside. There it is. Kurenai landed on a branch, looking forward where the trio now could see the intimidating structure that was the ninja prison. It resembled a dark giant beast slumbering in the middle of the vast forest that covered most of the Land of Fire. If anything, that place was anything but welcoming, understandable as it wasn't meant to give its inhabitants a good time. Let's get this over with then. Anko nodded and the whole area shook from a massive explosion. What the hell? Kurenai added more chakra to her feet to maintain her position on a tree branch. There. Toro pointed at the prison and a column of smoke that was now rising. Someone is breaking out. Kurenai wondered. Or breaking in. Anko smirked, anticipating a good fight. Chapter 58. The prison was built like a fortress, but since it was designed primarily to prevent the convicts from escaping, it wasn't very well suited to fend off an attack that came from the outside. Sure, a direct assault from the outside was still pretty much suicidal, but it simply wasn't designed for that. Another problem was that it was filled with rogue ninjas who were waiting for a chance to get out, and once that chance was granted, it was pure chaos. The Leaf ninjas assigned to guard the prison were far too few in numbers to quickly handle such a massive breakout, and were busy containing as many prisoners as possible, but at places they were merely overwhelmed by numbers. Many of the convicts were rather low-grade rogue ninjas, while those posing a more serious threat were held under much tighter security, but numbers to a degree always could match the skill. It was only a matter of quantity against quality. Damn! One of the Chunin guards got separated from his fellow Leaf ninjas and found himself surrounded by men and women in gray prisoners' robes, all eager to spill his blood. Some were armed with whatever weapons they could find, sometimes various objects that could be used as weapons merely because they weighed a lot. That didn't help them much, as the Leaf Chunin, despite his dire situation, was not about to give up. The first attacker was knocked back by a sharp kick, the next one was tripped and finished off by a kunai rammed through the back of his head. That followed by a fire jutsu that made one of the convicts fall down rolling on the ground as his legs caught fire. Still, the numbers seemed overwhelming, and eventually the leaf Chunin got hit in the chest by a metal rod one of the convicts found somewhere. The blow was strong enough to crack ribs, and the leaf ninja dropped down on his back with all air knocked out of his lungs. Time to die. The convict raised his crude weapon, preparing to bash the skull of his opponent open when he noticed a shadow growing under his feet. In shock, he raised his head and saw a dark figure dropping down on him with one hand pulled back for a strike. Almost instantly, a white sharp bone appeared from the palm, tearing through the flesh, and then came the impact. The rogue ninja was slammed to the ground, and the white bone was rammed into his exposed throat. Bastard! Another convict slashed with a kunai, but his target suddenly rolled forward, the sharp blade sailing over him, and ended up facing another convict who already aimed a nice punch to his face. Without hesitation, the newcomer answered with an identical strike, the two fists meeting with a sound that made those present feel sick. A loud cracking sound of bones breaking sailed over the area. Ag! My hand! What did you do? The poor man fell down, holding his arm that now looked as if it was used as a chew toy by a bear. The fingers were all bent at unnatural angles, and in several spots you could see broken bones piercing the skin. All the way up to the wrist, the hand more resembled a sack of flesh and shattered bones. Screaming won't help. Enko smirked, watching as two large pythons that appeared from her sleeves coiled up around two prisoners, slowly crushing their victims. I am out of here. The rogue ninja that a moment ago tried hitting Toro with a kunai stumbled back and ran off. At first it seemed as if nobody was following him, but to his shock the ground under his feet suddenly disappeared and he began falling down into the endless void, screaming, until the mental strain forced him to pass out. Thank you, perfect timing. The leaf Chunin sat up and scowled from pain in his chest. Though a couple of seconds earlier would have been even better, but who am I to whine? Will you be alright? Kurenai looked over the injured Chunin after her genjutsu finished off the last of the escaped rogue ninjas in the area. Oh, come on, stop fussing over him, he is no baby. Enko sighed, the pythons disappearing back in her sleeves, leaving the crushed rogue ninja and his female counterpart. Toro silently stood over his opponent, who was howling from pain. The archer, on the other hand, looked over his wrist, flexing the fingers a few times with several faint snaps coming from the inside. Apparently even his bones suffered some mild damage during the impact. It is still worth checking. Who knows, he might have internal injuries. Kurenai objected. No, I think I am alright, or at least I won't be dying any time soon. A man with some backbone, I like that. Enko nodded. So tell us, how come you had this party started and I wasn't invited? I can't tell you much. I was stationed on the other end of the facility when this mess started. One moment everything was quiet, as usual, and then the alarms went off. From what I can tell, someone infiltrated the facility and opened the low-level security prison blocks, releasing the low-level convicts. Most of them don't range above C rank level, but there are lots of them. Even when we send them to work, we separate them into 3 shifts to make numbers more manageable. Diversion, Toro stated. Yeah, I agree with the bone freak. Someone wants to reach something or someone, and it is easier to do if the security is preoccupied. One doesn't go through such trouble unless he wants to get something of worth. How do we get to the high security ward? Kurenai agreed with her teammates. That is no easy task. The Chunin shook his head. The security there is very tight, and more importantly, you can't get the chakra suppression seals off those convicts without the warden using her blood. Ah yes, Rashiki, getting her to cooperate won't be easy. Enko nodded. Other than her, only the Hokage and Ibiki can take those seals off. To take blood, one doesn't need to make the person cooperate, merely overpower him. Toro voiced his opinion. Then we have to find the warden. Do you have any idea where she might be? Kurenai once more turned to the injured Chunin. I can't tell you for sure, but there is a plan to be used in case of a mass breakout. According to that plan, the warden is supposed to coordinate the available forces. The best place for that would be her office, as it overlooks the main courtyard. I know the way there. Enko nodded. Enko, you take the lead then. Toro, protect us from behind. I'll stay in the middle as genjutsu support for either of you. Aren't you all commander-like? Enko laughed. But good plan. The whole prison turned into one large battlefield as the escaped convicts desperately tried to get beyond the outer wall. But the prison security, despite the dire situation, seemed capable of effectively counter the chaotic attacks that lacked any coordination. Still, they clearly had their hands full. On several occasions, Kurenai's team had to fend off attacks from the escaped rogue ninjas, but there were nobody among them that could pose a serious threat. Enko almost seemed to enjoy the havoc, but despite that she carried out Kurenai's orders swiftly and effectively, if not without a sarcastic comment. Now up the stairs, Enko instructed, but the ninjas were able to avoid simply running up. Instead, they began taking long leaps, often covering several flights of stairs in one jump, reaching the top floor in less than a minute. The metal door leading into the warden's office was burst open by either a powerful blow or a detonation of some sort. "Oh crap!" Kurenai cursed when she saw the warden bound to the wall by what looked like webbing. There was a long cut on her shoulder that was bleeding badly, and her mouth was covered by the same white substance, but she was still alive and was struggling against her binds. Kurenai rushed to the woman, who seemed desperate to tell them something. "Back!" A snake shot out of Anko's sleeve, wrapping around Kurenai's torso, and the next second the genjutsu mistress was pulled back just in time to avoid someone dropping from the ceiling with tremendous force. The only thing Kurenai managed to make out was that the attacker had 6 arms. "Funny running into you here." Kidamaru used 2 hands to block Toro's kick and then pushed the archer back with a smirk. His comment was left without an answer as his opponent spun around, grabbing the turned-over chair and smashed the piece of furniture against his foe with enough force to reduce it to a useless pile of wood, while Kidamaru was knocked backwards towards the window. With a scowl, Kidamaru shot a wide web at Toro, aiming to trap the archer, but his opponent swiftly moved forward, kicking up a piece of warden's table that must have been destroyed earlier in the struggle. The web wrapped around the piece of furniture, and both fell down harmlessly. "Gah!" The 6-armed ninja grunted from strain as he stopped Toro's fist when it was inches away from his face, but then barely leaned to the side when a bone slid out of the knuckle, scoring a glancing blow, tearing up the skin on Kidamaru's cheek. With an angry yell, Kidamaru punched Toro in the gut with all of his remaining arms, and then threw the archer over himself and through the window, shattering it in the process. Toro, though, in the last moment managed to grab the edge and prevent himself from falling down. "Stubborn bastard!" Kidamaru tried stomping on Toro's hand, but the archer suddenly pulled himself up, demonstrating impressive physical strength, and grabbed the thick purple belt around Kidamaru's waist. "No, don't!" Kidamaru used all 6 arms to prevent Toro from pulling him out of the window, but his foe pressed his feet against the wall, and Kidamaru's grip proved incapable of stopping the bone user. The next moment both ninjas went hurling down onto the ground below. In mid-air, Toro flipped over Kidamaru and delivered a kick to his chest, sending the 6-armed man down. "Crap!" Kidamaru didn't have time to think about how painful it was to land like that, as he shot out a string of webbing from his mouth and used it to pull himself out of the way when Toro dropped down like a bomb, aiming to ram his knee into the prone sound ninja. Instead, his blow only met solid ground, and Kidamaru saw how Toro for a moment was covered by a cloud of dust that raised from his blow. A few seconds later, Toro stepped out, with an evident limp in his right leg. His pants covering his knee were torn to shreds, and the skin was torn in numerous places from the impact. Then something snapped inside, and Toro once more stepped on that leg, which seemed once more to be capable of supporting his weight without any problems. Any regular person would have shattered his knee bone to bits after such a strike, but Toro clearly knew his limitations as he faced off against Kidamaru, who smirked, preparing for a fight. "That thing tastes like shit, your old shit!" The warden cursed the moment Anko freed her. The webbing apparently wasn't tasty. "Your shoulder!" Kurenai reached for a bandage, but Ki stood up without waiting for that. "Those bastards took me by surprise and they took my blood. Should I explain how bad that is? That was one of Orochimaru's personal bodyguards. I remember him from the invasion." Kurenai nodded. "I bet they want to free their comrade that is locked up here." "Well, they basically have the key now. Those guys are freaks. One has 6 arms, the other one that took my blood had 2 heads. Those would be Sakan and Yukon." Kurenai remembered. After all, Toro did provide the Leaf Village some useful information on Orochimaru's henchmen. "That wasn't a 2-headed guy, but 2 guys? All right, I repeat myself, freaks." Ki frowned. "We must stop them. Hey, Kurenai, maybe I should go help our bony friend, just in case." "No." Kurenai shook his head. "That 6-armed guy stayed here in order to stall any pursuers. Toro engaged him in direct combat to give us an opportunity to pursue our main objective, and that is to prevent the enemy from freeing the captive sound ninja." "All right, you are the boss." Anko sighed, looking a bit disappointed. "This prison has several secret passageways that were built in order to allow reinforcements to quickly reach other parts of the facility," Ki explained after Kurenai finally found a bandage. She then quickly stuffed it under her Jounin vest, to cover the wound and slow down the bleeding, but didn't care for using more elaborate means of treating her wound. "We should be able to use one of those passages to quickly get to the high-security area and hopefully intercept our foes. Perhaps you should stay here in order to coordinate your forces, especially considering that you are wounded," Kurenai suggested carefully. "My men can handle low-level scum without me. But I've served as a warden of this prison for 7 years now, and I'd be damned if I don't do everything in my power to prevent an important prisoner from escaping, so stop worrying about my little scratch and let's get going." Ki took a katana sword that was hanging on the wall and strapped it on her back. Unfortunately, when Orochimaru's men came, she wasn't given the chance to grab her weapon, but now was ready to put it to good use. Alright, I am ready, follow me. Heh, that is key for you, no humor at all, and she is bossy. Enko smirked and followed the warden, with Kurenai deciding to do the same. Perhaps she was a jounin, but being relatively fresh to the rank, she hadn't had the chance to develop that aura of authority other jounin demonstrated. Her rank alone was enough to command respect from her genin team, but Enko obeyed her merely because she was ordered to by Tsunade. As for Toro, his motives mostly still eluded the Genjutsu mistress, but she silently admitted that so far he gave no reason to suspect him of foul play. Stop here. Now which one was it? 2 to the left, 1 down. No, oh right, 1 to the left, 2 down. He pressed one of the bricks in the wall that seemed completely unremarkable, but it resulted in a hatch opening in the floor. The passageway was narrow and dimly lit, but that was expected, and Ki easily navigated, as when they came to a fork in the way, she without hesitation took the path leading to the right. They soon reached a narrow path leading straight up with a metal ladder there to make the climb. Getting windy in here, Enko muttered. That is because this passage connects to the main ventilation shaft, Ki explained, her blonde hair getting blown back by the wind. Luckily, soon enough the trio reached a hatch that Ki kicked open and jumped down through it, followed by her comrades. They ended up in a much broader corridor right in front of the large metal gate that was blown open and a leaf ninja on the floor in front of it. Dead, Enko reported, checking for the pulse. It wasn't necessary though, the poor guy had his neck broken and it wasn't hard to tell that nobody could survive after such an injury. That is it, those bastards are dead. Ki unsheathed her sword. Nobody is allowed to come to my prison and screw things up. Lead the way. Kurenai sighed. The warden led them forward. The cells here more resembled sealed-off pockets in the concrete with a large metal door as the only way in. By the looks of it, this door could withstand incredible amounts of punishment both from the outside and from the inside. Something is wrong. Ki shook her head, looking around. The layout of this place seems different. We should have reached our destination by now. I thought you knew the place. Enko turned to Ki. I do, but I don't know. I think I do. Kurenai pressed her hands against her two teammates and sent a burst of chakra through their bodies. Release! Nicely done, Kurenai! Enko grinned when the surrounding area became blurry until two figures materialized in the corridor. The door leading to one of the cells was wide open. Tayuya, did you get rusty while you were stuck in here? I thought you said your illusions were impossible to escape from. Oh, shut it, you moron! That bitch there is a genjutsu user, a pretty good one. I suppose we are a bit too late. Kurenai shook her head, looking at the foul-mouthed redhead that was holding a flute. An unusual weapon, but illusion created using sound were incredibly hard to detect and less hard to dispel. Apparently her teammates brought her a spare weapon, as the original flute she was captured with was still locked up in the vault back in the hidden leaf. Hold your tongue, Tayuya. We were ordered to free you, but Lord Orochimaru never said anything about you being capable of talking, so if you don't start filtering the crap that is coming out of your mouth, I will gladly sew it up after I cut out your tongue. Touchy. Tayuya smirked. Anyway, I have a ton of chakra stored after being forced to have those chakra suppression seals all over me. Time to put it to good use. You will not leave this facility, prisoner. You will return to your cell, as corpse if necessary. Ki held up her katana. That is if you will be able to stop us. Chapter 59. Well. This game is going to be so interesting. Kidamura grinned. Don't expect me to fall for the same rick as that simpleton Jirobo. He after all was the weakest member of the group. Kidamura spread his hands, now even more resembling some sort of a spider. His opponent remained silent though. Ah, silent treatment. Well, you never were a talkative person, Toro, but you should at least be suitable entertainment. I have high hopes for you in this battle. Don't die too quickly, alright? Kidamura took a step forward, but still got no response. I'll take that as a yes. Fine, let's see you handle me. Toro jumped to the side, avoiding a web Kidamura shot at him without any prior warning. Still, the six-armed ninja kept spitting out the sticky webbing, forcing Toro to keep dodging. Not only was it nearly impossible to cut that webbing, it also packed a serious punch. Not enough to injure a person, but it could easily knock over a grown man. By infusing the webbing with his own chakra, Kidamura turned it into a truly formidable weapon, well suited for capture or immobilization of his opponents, and only made it better in the eyes of the six-armed man, who liked nothing more than to toy with his prey, killing it slowly, breaking it one step at a time. Kidamura raised an eyebrow when one of his webs seemed to hit the target, but a moment later only a piece of log fell, wrapped up in the web. Substitution, huh? So, where are you now? Kadamura carefully looked around. It wasn't a good situation when you had no idea where your foe was. That meant that an attack could come at any moment and from any direction. Not good enough. Kadamura leaned to the side, the white arrow passing by harmlessly and digging into the ground in front of him, but Kadamura then almost instantly jumped away after noticing a faint trail of smoke. The explosive tag wrapped around the shaft of the arrow detonated, throwing the six-armed ninja back, but the member of the Sound Four did avoid most of the blast. That attack, it wasn't meant to harm me, it was supposed to force me to relocate. That means… No! Kadamura spat out a long line of webbing to flip himself around in midair, and just at time as he saw Toro behind him, ready to strike, a long piece of bone sliding out of the palm. There seemed to be no way to stop that, but Kadamura wasn't a member of the Sound Four for nothing. His mastery of the curse seal allowed him to gain a surge of energy that increased his speed, markings spreading all over his body. Toro's attack was well planned, but there was just no way the archer would be able to keep up now. The movements of the Sound Ninja turned to a blur as he prepared to block the strike and unleash his own at the same time, using his advantage in the number of limbs. All he had to do is grab that bone, pull it away, and then Toro would be left wide open. What? Kadamura saw how his hand passed right through the bone Toro made, while his punches went through his opponent's chest as if through air. His opponent was corporeal, like a ghost or more precisely an illusion. A clone! Kadamura realized just as the simple technique exploded into smoke and the Sound Ninja felt something strike him in the chest, throwing him down. Kadamura landed limply on his back while Toro observed him from his new position on the prison wall. TSK, you sneaky bastard! Can't believe I actually fell for such a cheap technique. A regular clone, pathetic. But silently the Sound Ninja admitted that it was a good plan. Usually there were ways of telling if your foe used the clone techniques. Being mere illusion, the clones couldn't interact with the world, but in mid-air there was little way of telling if it was a clone or actually your opponent, especially when you had so little time to think. Kadamura sat up, pulling the arrow out, with only the tip being covered in red. He then stood up, pulling up his shirt, revealing that his torso was now covered in some thick dark yellow substance that must have taken most of impact. Still, even though it now had a nice round hole over Kadamura's heart, it was strong enough to actually reduce the force of the arrow to a degree where it only barely broke skin. You took precautions, Toro stated. Naturally. As I said, I am not a simpleton like Jirobo to fall for a simple trick without having a backup plan. You are fun to play with, Toro, and you are an opponent I just can't allow myself to take lightly. The moment I realized you forced me to change positions, I began to cover my vital areas with my armor of sticky gold. You know I can release it through the pores of my body. Kadamura's voice betrayed his pride in his abilities, but his ability to create a defensive layer over any part of his body was indeed a formidable obstacle. Still, if an arrow sent from a position some distance away was able to pierce that defense, if only just, then all it required was to unleash a strike from closer range, yet it was easier said than done. Kadamura grinned and the substance covering his chest fell off, revealing only a minor puncture wound, with a drop of blood sliding down his chest that was now covered in unusual dark markings. The Sound Ninja then lowered his shirt and took a step forward. You had your chance, Toro, now it is my turn. Kadamura's speed clearly increased now that he used the curse seal. His ability to create webbing also improved. Not enough! Kadamura raised his hand, instantly covering it with the sticky substance that hardened once it was exposed to open air. It cracked when another bone arrow had hit it, but still withstood the strike, allowing Kadamura to spit out web, aiming to catch Toro like a fly. The archer was forced to change his positions time again and again as Kadamura kept bombarding him with web. The Sound Ninja also began creating kunai-shaped projectiles using the same sticky substance that when hardened resembled metal. Got you! Kadamura used his web to appear right in front of the archer, with his unusual weapons in all 6 arms. Spider Strike Barrage! Tisk! Despite his best efforts, Toro found that he simply lacked the speed necessary to effectively block such an amount of strikes. It took all he could do to avoid a fatal injury, but before he actually managed to gain room, he received numerous cuts all over his hands and lower torso, his dark gray shirt turning into bloody rags. Kadamura, on the other hand, could always cover any part of his body with his armor, effectively nullifying Toro's attacks. Not so fast. Toro saw how Kadamura managed to attach his webbing to Toro in the middle of the battle and now used it to pull his target closer for a finishing blow. He didn't expect Toro to flip in mid-air and deliver a sharp kick to his face. Bastard! Kadamura cursed, feeling his mouth began to fill with blood. He once again pulled on the string of webbing, but heard a tearing sound. The only thing he managed to pull closer was a piece of Toro's now ruined shirt. This game is getting pretty old, Toro. Kidamaru frowned, stomping on his pathetic trophy while glaring at Toro, who was crouched down in the distance, having escaped, at least for now. Kidamaru felt something strange when he stomped on Toro's piece of shirt, and when he pulled his foot away he noticed that the piece of shirt also had an inner pocket that clearly had something inside. Ag! Kidamaru howled when the modified smoke bomb inside the pocket detonated, covering the sound ninja in the thick cloud of smoke that instantly forced his to close his eyes and began coughing. The toxic smoke caused sharp burning pain in Kidamaru's eyes. It was impossible to breathe steadily, and the sound ninja was now completely disoriented. He knew only one thing: he had to get out of this smoke. He jumped out of the smoke, trying to get away and covering his whole body in his armor, since there was no doubt that Toro was going to attack given this chance. HMPFF! Kidamaru could barely open his eyes when suddenly felt something pull his hands and feet together. The sound ninja dropped like a log, his numerous limbs now bound together by ninja wire, and considering his heavy armor that now covered his body, he didn't have the strength to break free even with the curse seal activated. The sound ninja from his prone position saw his foe pull out an arrow out of his own wrist. At point-blank range it would have enough force to pierce the sticky gold armor, especially around the neck, just where Toro was aiming. GMPF! Toro was thrown off his feet just as the arrow left his bow. He was hit in the chest by several pieces of Kidamaru's armor that practically exploded to bits, being unable to withstand the force that came inside. How unexpected! You actually forced me to go all out, you sneaky bastard! Kidamaru now more resembled a monster from a nightmare, having activated the second stage of his curse seal. To think that you managed to wound me so seriously! The blast of energy that was generated when Kidamaru activated the second stage of the curse seal might have knocked the arrow off course, but the dangerous weapon still pierced one of Kidamaru's left arms, shattering the elbow and rendering that arm useless. Despite pain, the sound ninja charged forward, his speed now even greater, and Toro barely managed to lift his hands in a cross shape, blocking the initial blow, but 3 more hands smashed into his gut, and the archer was sent flying back into the prison wall with enough force to actually crack it. You like that bow of yours, huh? Fine, let's play by your rules. An arrow for an arrow. Kidamaru's new hideous form grinned as he created a long bow and an arrow out of the same substance he used earlier, while his webbing served as a string. But we both know, my bow is better! Toro rolled to the side when Kidamaru released the arrow. The force was truly amazing as the arrow stopped inches away from breaking through the prison wall that was built to withstand high amounts of punishment. The impact created wide cracks that began to spread all over the surface of the wall. Kidamaru saw how Toro concealed himself by the use of a regular smoke bomb. The smoke was blasted away when the sound ninja shot another arrow, but he still only hit the wall of the prison. Hiding again, huh? Well, that only makes this game more interesting. Kidamaru spat out another strong of his web and pulled himself up onto the roof of a guard tower, dominating over the area. It was attached to the prison wall, right over the spot where Toro managed to avoid the first 2 shots from Kidamaru's bow. The sound ninja came face to face with 2 of the escaped rogue ninja who looked at him with fear. They must have got cut off during their chaotic escape attempt. By now the uprising was getting more or less under control, but the Konoha ninja still had their hands full, so for a while there would be no other interference with this battle. Garbage! Kidamaru swiftly threw both rogue ninjas down from the guard tower, their loud scream ending suddenly the moment they actually hit the ground. There was simply no surviving when falling from such height, unless you were a very high-level ninja. Toro in the meantime was still on the ground level, hiding from his dangerous foe behind a pile of rubble that was created during the initial stages of the breakout. His situation didn't seem good. Kidamaru took position that allowed him to scan the whole area, and the bone user had a strong hunch that his foe had removed his forehead protector, revealing his third eye. That meant increased accuracy. The main problem that over such distance Toro had no way of effectively attacking Kidamaru, who in his current state was more than capable of dodging Toro's arrows. Tisk! Toro shook his head. He tore off what remained off his shirt and used the material to cover up the most serious of cuts he received earlier. Sure, he could endure the pain, but bleeding all over the place wasn't going to help him. He then took the last 2 unmodified smoke bombs he had, prepared several arrows and took the remaining explosive tags. His plan was risky, but it was far better than no plan at all. There! Kidamaru unleashed a shot when he saw someone move, but the next second his target was once again concealed by thick smoke. Kidamaru's arrow harmlessly flew through the smoke, hitting nothing. The next moment a white arrow flew out, but the sound ninja clearly saw that it went nowhere near him and smirked. Most likely Toro himself couldn't shoot accurately from within his own smoke screen. His suspicion was confirmed when yet another white arrow flew out, but just like the one before it had only hit the prison wall, not even reaching the guard tower. By then the smoke began to clear and Kadamaru once again saw a glimpse of Toro. The sound ninja timed his shot well, but his foe proved elusive, only allowing a glancing hit on his side that still tore through Toro's flesh with a sickening sound. "This is the most fun I had in ages." Kadamaru grinned, not minding Toro once again concealing himself with smoke. As before, his arrows lacked any accuracy and Kadamaru with a smirk attached a string of his webbing to his arrow, preparing to finish this battle with his next shot. He waited patiently until the smoke cleared and he could see Toro standing in the middle of the courtyard. The bone user then dropped his bow, but that was a useless gesture as Kadamaru was not the one to be merciful. He released a shot, while controlling the arrow in mid-flight with this webbing. Even if Toro would decided to dodge, he would counter that. To those with an untrained eye, it all happened in a flash. A bone slid out of Toro's palm a fraction of a second before the lethal blow. Arrow met bone and both shattered to pieces, their power matched. "What the?" Kadamaru saw Toro catch the string of webbing that was previously attached to the arrow, and the next moment the sound ninja was pulled down from his position on the guard tower roof. "You think that little stun will help you?" Kadamaru released the string and flipped in midair to land on his feet. His now enchanted body would easily endure landing from such height. "Every creation is only as strong as its foundation." Toro made a seal and Kadamaru with shock glanced at the prison wall behind his back that now had numerous white arrows stuck in it, each arrow supporting an explosive tag. Only now Kadamaru understood what his foe was doing. When Kadamaru missed the first 2 times hitting the prison wall, he weakened the structure in the spot where the thing was under most stress due to the guard tower above it. His arrows caused enough damage to make the whole section of the wall unstable. A single push and the whole thing would collapse along with the tower. Boom! The detonation threw Kadamaru to the ground with enough force to daze him, even in his present form, but what was far worse was that the wall behind him began to crumble, huge pieces of stone falling all around, each large enough to flatten a person. "No, no, no!" Kadamaru got up and began running towards Toro, who stood far enough to be outside any danger. Rocks kept falling, the ground trembling, but the sound ninja desperately ran, when finally he suffered a blow to the back that made him stagger. That followed by another, yet still he kept going. Just a few more steps and her would be out of danger. "Gah!" Kadamaru howled when what remained of the guard tower fell down on him. Dust raised, and when it finally settled, Toro was greeted by the sight of a partially destroyed fortification. Kadamaru lay face down, buried up to the waist in rubble, while 3 of his hands were clearly broken. The curse mark was released and the sound ninja reverted to his usual form. "Damn, I hate you!" Kadamaru actually managed to turn his head. "You betrayed Lord Orochimaru. You should have been kissing his feet for granting you power. I am just sorry I wasn't the one to finish you off, but I know that." "Umph." Toro pinned Kadamaru's head down to the ground, stopping him from struggling. A bone slipped. "Enough talking, just die." Toro looked to the side only when he heard an explosion coming from the prison's main building, and the next second he was blown to the side with the blow strong enough to propel him into the rubble of the destroyed wall and bury him under several rocks. "TSK, what took you so long?" Kadamaru smirked. "Shut it, freak. You are pathetic allowing yourself to be reduced to this. Idiot." Chapter 60. "Careful, if those guys are Orochimaru's personal bodyguards, then they are strong. The snake bastard doesn't have a habit of tolerating weaknesses." Enko slowly reached for a kunai. "Taiyuya, sound-based genjutsu and summons. Sakan and Yukon, close quarters combat based on their unique ability to merge with any organic matter of similar proportions." Kurenai had the basic information on the sound 4 memorized and silently thanked Toro for providing this knowledge. It gave them a certain advantage of knowing the abilities of their enemy, but countering them would still be a difficult task. Well, it appears you did your homework, bitch." Taiyuya smirked. "But enough of this, I am going to reduce you Konoha trash to a bloody mess." "Shut up!" Ki threw a handful of shuriken, forcing Taiyuya to use her flute in order to deflect the weapons. Ki used that time to attack the sound ninja with her katana. "Prisoners do not leave my prison unless they become a corpse. I'll make sure that the same happens to you." "Enko!" "I am on it!" Enko raised her left hand and several long pythons appeared from the sleeve of her trench coat, going for Sakan. "Too slow!" Sakan jumped up and then kicked himself off the ceiling, propelling him towards Kurenai, who was busy flashing through hand seals for one of her techniques. The sudden attack forced the genjutsu mistress to leave her technique unfinished and raise her hands in order to block a punch. Still, the strike was strong enough to actually knock the jounin off her feet. "Forgot about me? I am hurt." Enko appeared from behind, grabbing Sakan's shoulder and preparing to stab the member of the Sound 4 into his temple with a kunai. "Of course I didn't." A third arm appeared out of Sakan's shoulder, grabbing Anko's wrist before she could finish the blow. Neither did I. The second head looked up with a playful smirk. Mind if I come out to play, brother? Sure, just don't slack off. Shit! Anko received a painful kick to the gut when a leg appeared out of Sakan's back. The picture was quite bizarre, but a moment later Anko and Kurenai both saw how an almost identical copy of their foes sort of separated from the original body. So that is what you meant by an ability to merge, huh? Well, I guess this way we each get a bastard to kill. Anko licked her lips. Bitch! Behind them Tayuya kept dodging Key's slashes until the warden finally scored a glancing blow against her opponent's forearm, the blade leaving a shallow, but painful cut. I already said, you ain't living this place alive. Screw you! Tayuya scooped up some of the blood from her fresh wound and flashed through seals. Summoning jutsu! Baha! Other combatants were forced to jump aside when Key flew past them, having suffering a powerful blow from a strange creature that appeared in the narrow corridor, its huge frame hiding Tayuya almost completely. The creature resembled an incredibly tall man in a dark green full-body suit, his gray hair covering his whole head and face. Most importantly, he wielded a huge metal club and Key was lucky that she wasn't hit with that, instead receiving a simple kick that still hurt like hell. That is one of her summons, Kurenai concluded. If what Toro said is true, she uses her flute to control it. No shit! Anko ducked when the massive club sailed over her head, smashing into the wall with tremendous force, throwing debris in every direction. Watch it, Tayuya, you are going to bring this whole place upon us, Sakan warned. Keep quiet, Birdbrain, I am going to squash those Trasher ninjas that came to fight us. Ah, there you are. Tayuya saw Kurenai when the dust partially settled and her summon instantly sprang into action. What are you doing, you idiot? Tayuya heard her target speak with Yukon's voice and barely stopped her doki in time. Tayuya then spun around seeing the familiar form of her teammate attack her with a kunai in hand. The sound Kunoichi had no choice but to raise her flute in order to block a kunai. The next second the illusion was lifted. Keep her occupied, Kurenai! Anko smirked. The Genjutsu mistress knew her stuff. The illusion she used was very well timed and despite being relatively simple, it was quite effective. Basically it allowed the user to switch appearance with another person, though it did nothing to mask the voice or scent. Still, it worked well to confuse their foes. Tayuya cursed as Kurenai kept attacking, not allowing the sound Kunoichi to use her flute for controlling her summon. That meant that the huge creature just stood there like some huge statue. Damn, they are fast. Anko retreated under the barrage of strikes from Sakan and Yukon, who moved almost perfectly together. Fire style, roaring flamethrower! What? Both Sakan and Yukon punched at the same time, but their foes suddenly jumped up, getting stuck to the ceiling, just as a strong stream of fire came pouring towards them. The twins acted fast, taking cover behind the still immobile summon, that despite getting part of his outfit burned off, remained standing. Damn, they are quick on their feet. Key coughed, her chest sore after she took that last kick. Wah! Kurenai sailed through the air, landing face down near her teammates. You ugly hag! You'll pay for that! Tayuya raged, while pulling the kunai out of her shoulder, black markings spreading all over her skin. The sound Kunoichi resumed playing her flute and the summon came to life once again, charging forward and swinging its club like a maniac, often hitting walls and floor, forcing the whole place to shake. I'll crush you! Tayuya followed her summon, who for the time being forced the leaf ninjas to pull back. Good, they are occupied. Sakan nodded. I didn't expect leaf ninjas to seek us out so quickly. I am going to go help Tayuya. Yukon, you go finish up with the secondary assignment. Pfft, is it really necessary? Are you questioning Lord Orochimaru and his orders? If you are, then even being my brother won't help you. I am going. Yukon waved his hands defensively and disappeared in the side corridor. We need more room to handle that brute. He kept retreating along with her comrades. Let's lure him out to a more suitable location. Lead on. Kurenai agreed with the plan, she and Anko quickly running after Key, who easily navigated in the labyrinth of confusing corridors, while Tayuya's summon kept following them while trashing the place. There! The leaf ninjas burst through the twin doors and ended up inside the mess hall that right now was empty. Scatter! Kurenai ordered, all three female ninjas jumping into separate directions just as Tayuya's summon smashed his way inside, blasting the doors off their hinges. Tisk! Tayuya looked around noticing that the battlefield conditions changed. Now she couldn't rely only on the brutal strength of her summon, as now the much faster opponents would be able to maneuver around it and attack her directly. Well, she could always find a remedy for that. Summoning jutsu! More of those things? Key frowned. The one freakish summon with the grub was joined by two other, both even weirder than the previous, and no less ugly. One resembled a large, bare-chested, muscle-covered man, while the last one looked somewhat like an armless mummy that once got all close and personal with Gamabunta. The air was filled with the melody of Taiya's flute as she commanded her summons forward, each moving towards one of the leaf ninjas. Ha! Enko seemed to charge the one wielding the metal club in what seemed to be a suicidal attack, but before getting hit she went into a slide, ending up behind the summon, and then released snakes from her sleeves. The serpents quickly wrapped themselves around the feet of the other two summons, and the huge creatures almost immediately lost balance and fell down. Apparently Taiya's control over them was limited as she couldn't give them more complex orders required to maintain balance. Raf! Ki flashed through the air, flying past the last standing summon, her razor-sharp blade flashing like a bolt of lightning. Once she landed, the summon wielding the metal club slumped down to its knees, its head rolling off its massive shoulders, before the creature disappeared in a puff of smoke, the jutsu getting dispelled due to the damage caused. Bitch! Taiya cursed, and then suddenly felt something grab her hands, and before she understood what happened she was slammed against something solid. With shock, Taiya realized that she was now bound to a tree that somehow appeared behind her. I show no mercy to the enemies of my village. Kurenai appeared from the tree trunk with a kunai in hand. She roughly grabbed Taiya by her hair, pulling the head back and exposing the neck in order to cut it open with a kunai. HMPFF! Kurenai felt a fist buried deep into her back. With Kurenai's concentration broken, the genjutsu was dispelled and the young jounin was blasted back, flying into the wall. Kurenai! Enko rushed towards her teammate, but was intercepted by one of Taiya's doki that tore off Enko's snakes like ribbons, once more following the melody of Taiya's flute. You can handle these two at least. Sakan frowned at Taiya, his body now more resembling some sort of a demon as the sound ninja activated the second stage of the cursed seal. Shut up, at least I didn't go so far as to power up to your level, shithead. If I didn't you'd be bleeding all over the floor, Taiya. Sakan growled and moved forward, going for Kurenai that was just getting up after smashing against the wall. Sakan was upon the dazed genjutsu mistress in less than a second, his speed and strength greatly enchanted by the curse mark that now took over his body. Kurenai coughed out blood when a punch to the chest once again smashed her against the wall with so much force as cracks began to spread. Now die, trash! Sakan roared, but his target somehow slid out of the way of the next strike. Sakan's fist practically sank into the wall, blasting a huge hole in it, proving that Kurenai must have avoided a strike that would have killed her. The hole was big enough for a grown man to walk through, and fresh air filled the stuffy mess hall. Slippery leaf trash! Sakan cursed, but the glance outside, his eyes instantly picking up the devastation in the courtyard. He cursed, and to Kurenai's surprise blurred out of her vision, even though she was practically open for an attack. The genjutsu mistress looked outside and clearly saw how Sakan with a powerful kick sent Toro flying into the remains of the prison wall. The bone user then got buried under the rubble, while Sakan roughly pulled up the familiar six-armed man, that by the looks of it was barely able to stand, let alone fight. That bastard Toro, he dared do this to me. Shut up, or next time I'll just let him finish the job, imbecile. Sakan fought an urge to hit his unfortunate teammate, but in his state Kadamura might not survive such a blow. Sakan then looked back towards the central prison building and noticed how Kurenai jumped down, once again ready to face him. You are a stubborn one, aren't you? You leaf ninjas just don't know when to give up and finally die. You should know that. Kurenai wasn't allowed to finish when another explosion made the ground shake and the ninjas saw a huge snake tear its way through the wall, further damaging the building. The huge summon had one of Taiya's doki in its teeth that tore the thing into before it finally disappeared. Taiya herself appeared next, standing on the shoulder of her last remaining summon, the one that looked like a muscle-covered man with his eyes covered by a blindfold. The last doki clashed with Ki, who attacked with her katana while her enemy was still in mid-air, but her foe allowed the blade pierce its hand, before kicking the prison warden away, forcing her to leave her blade in Taiya's summon. These witches are better than I though, figures, one of them was once the student of Lord Orochimaru. Taiya spat out blood, having suffered a blow from Enko earlier. Whatever, I am sure we can take them. Wait. Sakan's commanding tone made Taiya lower her flute just as she was about to command her last summon to attack. They are not our mission. We got what we came from. Sakan looked to the side and everyone saw Yukon standing in the distance with someone wearing the prisoner's robe standing next to him, but from so far away it was impossible to tell who it was. Tisk, fine, we can always return and kill the assholes later. Taiya sighed and released her summon once she jumped down from its shoulder. It was nice playing with you, leaf ninjas, you at least can entertain us, but it so happens we are running a bit late, can't keep our master waiting. Sakan released the curse mark, turning back into his usual self as he began sinking into the ground, along with Kidamaru and Tayuya, while his Borther in the distance grabbed the man in the prisoner's robe and did the same. They are gone. Enko scowled, but following them was a bad idea, considering that all of them were tired and many injured. Enko allowed the giant snake disappeared and jumped down to Kurenai. Toro is under the rubble over there. Kurenai spoke, feeling how her body protested the abuse it received. Great, I just love digging around in the rubble, does wonders for nails, you know. Enko rolled her eyes, but still went to dig out the last member of their team. So far this mission was a total mess. Enko saw how the rubble shifted until a hand burst through and Toro eventually pulled himself out. Basically the archer looked like he went through a meat grinder, but from what Enko had a chance to see his opponent was even worse off, and judging by the amount of damage his fight was in no way less brutal than theirs. Heh, well, you turned out to be a tough one, come on. Enko offered Toro her hand, helping the archer get back on his feet. This is a nightmare. He looked around while pulling on her long hair. Hokage-san will have my head for this. Look at this place, the whole prison is trashed, and at least 2 convicts have escaped. This is a disaster. Relax, I am sure. Don't tell me to relax. Ki glared at Kurenai. Alright, it isn't our fault this happened. Right, sorry. Ki rubbed her face. Ugh, I have to write a report regarding the damage, or losses, and see if anyone else actually escaped. Brilliant. I think we could also use a medic. Kurenai glanced at Toro, though his modified body had the very least stopped bleeding. And I could use a one-on-one with a barrel of sake. I do not require medical services, but I would appreciate a place to clean up and would request some spare clothing. That is easier, but don't expect much of a choice, this isn't a fashion house. We have either standard ninja uniforms or prisoner robes. Just order someone to bring him a spare shirt. Ki, Tsunade-sama might scold Kurenai if she allows a member of her team catch a cold during a mission. Ha ha, Enko, hilarious. Kurenai right now didn't appreciate Enko's attempts at humor, but the snake mistress as always waved Kurenai's comments off. Whatever. I'll send someone to find you. Ki sighed. Hey, before you go, try finding out who was the other guy the sound ninjas busted out. Enko for a second looked serious and professional. Right, I'll gather the reports and we'll try to identify that guy. Personally, for me, most of the prisoners look alike. Man, this is a royal mess. This wasn't just about getting one of his top ninjas out, right, sensei? Tsunade rested her chin on her folded fingers. Kurenai left several minutes ago after giving her report, her team returning from the mission looking like they went through war. No, Orochimaru got his tool back, but a tool is only required when you have a purpose for it. Hiruzen rubbed his chin. He has something planned. True, any ideas? I'd order Kakashi to keep a closer eye on Sasuke, not send him or his team on high-ranking mission at least for the time being. I'll try to find a way to keep them occupied without it looking too suspicious. Tsunade agreed. There was no need to tell the last Uchiha this delicate information. Yes, but you must admit that Orochimaru trying to bust out one of his top ninjas was to a degree expected. What really concerns me is why he got that man out. Don't know. You already said that Orochimaru has a reason for everything. His actions always serve his goals in one way or another. He will play some sort of a role, but what kind of a role? His abilities are hardly worth mentioning. But not abilities alone interest Orochimaru, Tsunade. Orochimaru has means of giving power to those that agree to follow him, but he requires people he will be able to control as puppets, by using aspects of their personality. That way he can turn them into his weapons, that will obey his will eagerly. The man in question is perfect in that regard. He is filled with hatred and ambitions that can't be matched by his talent as a ninja. The only question is where Orochimaru will direct that hatred. Right, Orochimaru has something very special planned for Mizuki. Chapter 61. Toro had rented out a small apartment not far from the market district. It was quite unremarkable, but that suited the silent archer. The landlady wasn't keen on renting out an apartment to a shinobi, since in her opinion ninjas were often a sign of trouble, but legally she had no reason to deny him, and it would have been a bad idea to do that in a ninja village. Still, Toro was absent most of the time, and whenever he was present he kept quiet. He paid the rent in time without causing any ruckus, so the landlady soon was quite happy with the archer. The apartment itself was small, but considering that it was occupied by a single person, it was enough. It still looked a bit Spartan though. A single bed, a table with a couple of chairs and a dresser was basically all the furniture there was. The kitchen had a small fridge and a stove, just enough to cook a simple meal and preserve some food. The lock clicked when Toro entered, settling down his bow in the corner. The shuriken holster and the supply pouch flew over to the table, and the archer then stepped into his bathroom while taking off the standard ninja shirt he was provided back in the prison. It was a reasonably good piece of clothing, designed to never limit the freedom of movement, but Toro still felt uncomfortable in it. He then inspected his upper torso in the mirror. Sure, he healed fast, but after his clash with Kadamaru his body was a mix of partially healed cuts and large bruises. They would disappear in less than 2 days, so it was no reason to look closer. Several minutes later Toro stepped out after taking a shower and dressed in his usual outfit, taking out a spare out of the dresser, as he had several of those made in advance, figuring that with his style of fighting his clothing wouldn't last for long. Tisk. Toro shook his head after glancing at the bed, but he wasn't sleepy. He had a small nap before they left the prison, while Kurenai and Ki discussed the situation. He already had a habit of sleeping very little. On the other hand, after the fight in the prison, Toro needed to stock up on some supplies, and the payment he received for the mission along with a generous bonus would be quite handy. But that didn't concern the archer very much. Unlike many ninjas, he didn't rely on his equipment as much, having an ability to produce his own gear. What truly concerned the archer was the fact that his clash with Kadamaru showed the limitations of his fighting style. The six-armed sound ninja, despite being one of Orochimaru's elite shinobi, wasn't the strongest opponent Orochimaru could throw at him, and that meant that Toro needed to improve. You didn't attack, so you are here not to fight, but to talk. Speak then. Toro turned around facing a figure that seemed to appear in the corner of the small room. The newcomer was wearing an outfit similar to that worn by the Anbu operatives, though almost completely black and with a white blank mask covering the face. Apart from the usual kunai and shuriken holsters, the ninja also had a tanto strapped to his back. He was slightly shorter than Toro and had short raven hair, but nothing else could be said about the ninja due to his mask, except that his skin seemed unnaturally pale. You are observant. When did you notice I was here? The voice was blank, showing no emotion, but despite coming from behind the mask, Toro could say that it belonged to someone close to his own age group. That is of no importance. Who are you and what do you want? I am but a humble messenger. My master observed you for a while, Toro-san. I trust it is useless to ask who your master is. Of course. I would be unable to tell even if I wanted to. You understand better than most that there are ways of keeping secrets. As there are ways of revealing them. Toro tilted his head. Yes, I won't say that I wouldn't crack under torture, Toro-san, but as I said, I would be unable to tell you anything even if I decided to. Why are you here? I was permitted to tell you that my master has the best interests of the village at heart. Doesn't mean much to me. I disagree. It is useful to know the motives of others. I can also tell that you and my master are in a way alike. In order to achieve your goals, you both are willing to use methods that others might consider to be inappropriate. I am yet to hear anything of worth from you, shinobi. Very well. I already figured you are not the one to say words without meaning. Basically, my master wishes for cooperation. You are currently an ally and a valuable one at that. You should know that like any ninja village, Konoha is much more than usually can be seen. The things that are most interesting are often kept in the shadows, away from curious eyes. You deal with matters too dirty to be revealed to public. Secrets that might ruin the reputation of many high-ranking individuals. All for the sake of the village. What do you require of me? My master doesn't wish for Orochimaru to become stronger. Uchiha Sasuke, his Sharingan is too valuable to be allowed to fall into the hands of that rogue ninja. Measures have been taken to avoid that. I suppose you know that I and 2 other Chunin from his age group are tasked with keeping an eye on him, along with his Jounin instructors. Yes, such a mission does provide a sense of security, but we thought that it would be useful to provide you with an additional advantage. Just in case. The masked ninja slowly reached inside his pocket and produced an envelope. Everything you require is here, though please burn the instructions once you will be done. Why did you approach me? My master didn't give me instructions regarding that particular question. The masked ninja shook his head. I can only assume that it is because you will not hesitate to kill the last Uchiha should it come down to it. Better to let the Sharingan disappear from this world than let it fall into the hands of the enemy. I promise nothing. Toro carefully accepted the envelope. Nobody expected you to. Who knows, maybe at a later date my master will see fit to meet with you personally. But for now there is no reason for that. It was a pleasure to talk with you, Toro-san. The masked ninja made a seal and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Toro stayed silent until the smoke cleared completely, and then opened the envelope. Interesting. Alright, let's try this one out. Shizune carefully allowed several drops of some liquid fall onto an unrolled scrolls, filled with numerous seals, that glowed for a second after that. Shizune then used scissors to carefully cut out a small part of the stained paper and placed it under the microscope. Judging by the frown, she didn't achieve the expected result. "Excuse me, Shizune-san?" Hokage's assistant looked up and turned to the door. "Oh, Sakura, right?" "Yes, Kakashi-sensei told me to see you about medical ninjutsu. He said he would speak with you." "Oh, he did, said you would drop by? Would be nice of him to stop reading that book everywhere, though." "I know, he should have memorized it by now." Sakura sighed. "But we are used to it by now, though it is a bit humiliating when your sensei reads that in public. You won't believe the looks we get sometimes." "Yes, that must be unpleasant." Shizune covered her mouth to avoid laughing. "Anyway, I prepared some materials for you to read on. It is important for you to have very good theoretical knowledge about the ways the human body works, before you attempt to use even the simplest of medical jutsu." "Reading, great, that is what I am actually good at." Sakura smiled, accepting several thick-looking scrolls and 2 books. "The basic medical ninjutsu are used to mend flesh wounds. Your primary task is to understand how chakra can be used to accelerate the creation of new cells in order to heal such injuries. The materials I gathered also tell how to stop bleeding, by usual means. It is foolish to heal a wound when there's a ruptured artery. Internal bleeding isn't a good thing. Finally, I covered the basic ways of fighting poisons and mixing basic antidotes. You most likely won't be able to cure yourself or your teammates, but you will give them time until a more skilled medic will be able to have a look at them." "Thank you. What were you doing right, if you don't mind me asking?" "Actually, no, it has to do with you, to be honest." "Me? Well, I am trying to analyze that drug you recovered after fighting the rogue ninja during your last big mission." "Oh right, the freak. I wouldn't use that stuff even if my life depended on it, especially after Tenten gave her an overdose. That was the most gruesome death I had seen, not that I've seen much, but still." Sakura paled slightly, remembering how Rimuzo trashed on the ground, her body practically tearing itself apart, while emitting immense amount of chakra. "But if we figure out how that thing works, we might learn something and then use the knowledge to create something really useful. Too bad I had so little progress so far. The mixture seems stable and I can't seem to break it into basic components." "Oh, too bad. I heard higher temperatures can initiate chemical reactions, though." "Huh!" Shizune looked at the sample she was working with. "You might be onto something. Just heating up the mixture won't work, of course, but there are certain processes that only work at high temperatures. No guarantee it will work, but thanks for the idea. You are indeed a very bright kunoichi." "Thanks." Sakura blushed slightly. "Could I ask for another thing? You see, I am working on genjutsu, and it would be nice to read up on the way our senses work." "Sounds reasonable," Shizune agreed. "I don't have a book on senses exactly, but let's see." Shizune approached a bookshelf while looking for something. "Ah yes, this one. This tome describes various diseases that may affect human senses, cause blindness or hearing loss and all that. You will find quite a bit about how it all actually works." "Thank you, I am sure this will be useful. I'll return everything once I will be done with it." "Take your time." "Yes, after all this time I can finally resume my training and once more be on my way towards becoming a splendid ninja," Lee declared when his team gathered for their first training session after Tsunade officially cleared him for training, though she stressed that he was not yet permitted to use even the primary lotus or open the inner gates for any other reason. "Beautiful speech, Lee. Time to work hard." "Yes, sensei. I almost missed the Yamanaka now." Neji rubbed his face once again, annoyed over the way his teammate and sensei behaved. Unfortunately, Lee seemed to overhear that comment. "Neji-kun, it is most youthful that you got attached to another female genin, but you must concentrate on our dynamics as a team now." "That is now what I meant." Neji raised his voice. "Oh yeah, good one, Lee." Tenten doubled over while laughing at Neji, who seemed determined to glare holes through her. It was still unclear how she would be able to serve as a member of her team while fulfilling her duties as Chunin. Most likely Tsunade would have to figure something out, since Shikamura had a similar dilemma. "Tenten, please stop that." "No way, I rarely get to laugh at your expense. Can we get down to training?" Neji turned to Guy. "Ah yes, warm up first. We shall run laps, and should I not?" "Whatever." Neji rolled his eyes and went on running, not waiting for his sensei to finish another of his personal challenges. Who knows, maybe with his luck Guy would end up walking on his hands for the rest of the day. Tenten, did I say something that upset Neji?" "You've only hurt his pride, Lee, but it was getting quite a beating recently." "Really?" "Oh yeah?" Tenten and Lee began running side by side with Neji up ahead, and Guy already out of sight. "It turns out Neji even has a nickname now. Many people now call him a jerk." "That sounds more like an insult, Tenten," It might seem that way, but you remember that Sasuke calls Naruto dope and Naruto calls Sasuke a bastard sometimes in return. Ino calls Sakura forehead and Sakura calls Ino pig. Sometimes it is the way people relate to each other. Oh, I see, that is a sign of an unusually deep bond, huh? I shall uphold this tradition of team unity between individuals. Tenten nearly fell over laughing after such a declaration, while Lee sped up catching up to Neji. What did you call me? Damn, I love my team! Tenten again began to laugh like a maniac while Neji was standing and glaring at both his teammates. Gotcha! Kiba appeared from the nearby trees, slamming into someone and then smashing his target into the ground. Bark, bark! Akamaru appeared running up to his master. What do you mean, Kiba-kun, what are you doing here? Lee ran up to the fellow genin. Lee? So you are up and running again, good to know, I figured you were a true leaf ninja. We can't be put down by some freak using sand. Team training? Yes, which you interrupted. Neji nodded while approaching. Well, sorry, you don't need to be such a jerk about it. Oh wait, you are one, so it is alright. Ha, I knew it, stop denying it, Neji. Lee proudly pointed at Neji, who was on the verge of pulling his hair out. Who are you running after, we didn't see? Tenten asked with an amused smile. Sasuke. Hinata is on medical leave and Naruto and Sakura are busy also, though I have no idea what they are doing. So, Kurenai-sensei and Kakashi-sensei decided it was a good idea for us to train together. Apparently that Toro guy taught Sasuke quite a bit about hiding and moving around stealthily, and since me and Shino are a part of a tracker team, he is a perfect training target for us. So, what went wrong? I had no idea that bastard knew how to create shadow clones. I thought that was Naruto's area. Damn, most likely it means that I was running after a decoy for that last half an hour. Sasuke could be on the other end of the village by now. Perfect. Bark. Oh, don't try that one, Akamaru, you screwed up no less than I did. Shadow clones are really hard to identify, they are actual physical copies of the one using the jutsu. Even the Byakugan can't tell the difference. And they smell the same too. Sasuke alone is a troublesome bastard, but with shadow clones, I doubt he can make many of those, he isn't a chakra powerhouse like Naruto. Tenten suggested. I mean, it takes a toll on me to use Shuriken shadow clone technique, and that has a far lower chakra cost. Yeah, all that doesn't make my task any easier, you know. I'd better go and try to sniff out the Uchiha. And we'd better get back to training before Guy says we are slacking off. Neji turned around. Of course, let us proceed with our most youthful training. Youthful, right? I bet by the time we are all Chunin I will have gray hair because of you. Tenten muttered and also resumed running. None of the genin noticed another figure observe the scene before fading into the shadows of the forest, though most likely his presence remained unnoticed because Neji never had his Byakugan activated. The Inuzuka is not very creative. Decided to observe the genin training? Kakashi looked to the side where Toro emerged from the shadows. No. I figured as much. Still, Sasuke learned a thing or two from you. He has thrown Kiba off the trail twice already, and I haven't heard from Kurenai that Shino was doing much better. They will catch him eventually. Of course, Sasuke rarely resorts to shadow clones, he hates how draining that technique is. It means that Kiba left him with no other options. I still find it comforting to see Sasuke working hard in the field where his Sharingan is far less of an asset. How is his curse mark? Stable, no sign of it acting up, why ask about it? That mark is a constant threat, best to be informed about any signs of it influencing him in any way. No, I think Sasuke himself is keen on not letting it get out of control. It is more of a matter of pride for him, he hates being controlled and manipulated like that, but I can tell you are not here to just discuss Sasuke's progress. Spill it. I require aid in a field you are adept in. They say I am a talented person with many skill, what exactly do you have in mind? Instead of answering, Toro pulled out a slip of paper and charged chakra through it. Oh, alright, I can help out. Let's meet later, after lunch. Find me. Agreed. Chapter 62. An ability to draw upon chakra and the ability to actually control that energy were two entirely different things. Controlling chakra was to a degree an art, a skill that could be improved further and further. It required much practice. Training in chakra control was basically like training in anything else, only with its own unique traits. When controlling chakra, there were two major limiting factors. The first one was the total amount of chakra the ninja had. Vast amounts of chakra made any initial attempts in the usage of chakra crude and prone to harmful results, or the very least a failed jutsu. In such cases, the ninja first of all learned to limit the amounts he had to use and mold the required amount of chakra through the basic seals. The second limiting factor is the overall potency of chakra. Ninja with highly potent chakra could perform high-rank techniques with less chakra from their reserves. Since chakra was basically a mix of physical and spiritual components, the potency of chakra depended on the overall physical shape and mental fortitude of the user. That was yet another reason why ninjas were very physically fit and learned to maintain focus even in the worst possible situations. That also meant that as long as ninja improved his physical conditions, he also had to constantly improve his skills in controlling his own chakra. The amount of Fox's chakra Hinata could use was fairly minimal, but the chakra itself was so wild that any form of advanced control seemed impossible, at least at first. Jiraiya explained that it was not the case, but would require considerable effort on Hinata's part to learn using this chakra in a constructive way. So far her main task was limiting the amount of chakra that escaped every time she used Chuunin. Later Jiraiya forced her to go through basic chakra control exercises, with a twist. Hinata landed roughly for what must have been 100th time this day. The basic tree climbing exercise proved a real challenge when she was told to climb a tree by using only her hands, or more exactly by forcing chakra through her palms in order to maintain the grip. In most cases, charging chakra into the soles of the feet was considered the hardest, but Hinata was a special case. Her best results so far was about 1/3 of a tree trunk, before she would lose control and blast herself away from the tree along with a nice piece of bark. "Hey, I am back!" Naruto ran into the clearing holding several small slips of paper. "Now you mind explaining why I had to buy paper, and why the hell does this paper cost so much?" "Took you long enough, brat." Jiraiya turned to the blonde genin. "Hand them over." "Whatever, the prices on those things bite. Because this is no ordinary paper. It is made from trees that are grown by exposing them to chakra. Thus this paper is very sensitive to the thing." "Great, that so didn't answer my question, pervy sage." Jiraiya cringed at the nickname, but he already understood that it was next to impossible to make Naruto stop calling him that. "Alright, Hinata, take a break, this might be interesting for you too." Thank you, Master Jiraiya." Hinata slumped down next to a tree, breathing heavily and sweat rolling down her face. Her hands were tired and she had a burning sensation on the inside. A short break was so welcome right now. "Yeah, remember when me and Sasuke learned tree climbing back in the Wave Country? You won't believe how many times I hit my head." Naruto grinned. Hinata went a bit red, but then again that could be her being tired. "Actually, the fact that you had hit your head is quite believable. Now take on." "So, should I just write something on it?" "No." Jiraiya also took a slip of paper that all of a sudden burst into flames, quickly getting reduced to ashes. "Alright, that was a neat trick, explain," Naruto demanded. "As I said, this paper is sensitive to chakra. We all have an elemental affinity, which basically means that we will have an easier time learning the techniques of that element, and use them to a greater effect. I naturally have an affinity to fire, which is common in Konoha." Excuse me. Is a ninja limited to only one element?" Hinata asked from her spot after regaining her breath. "Good question." Jiraiya nodded. "The ninjas usually have an affinity to only one element unless they have special chakra-based bloodlines. But it isn't impossible to become proficient in other elemental techniques. I, for example, am also skilled in earth-based ninjutsu, if I say so myself." So how do I work this thing?" "Man, you are so slow. I said it reacts to chakra, so use some, dummy." "Alright, here I go, huh?" The slip of paper in Naruto's hand suddenly split in two as if cut by a pair of invisible scissors. That is not what I expected, pervy sage." "Actually, it is exactly what I expected." Jiraiya nodded. "I had a hunch after I observed your use of the fox's chakra." "What does the fox have to do with this anyway?" "The fox was known for performing many devastating techniques, and it was not limited to any one element. Still, when you use your abilities as a Jinchuriki, they usually manifest in some form of an aerial blast. In other words, you mostly use air. When you use that chakra, it always has to mix with your own. I suppose the fox's chakra automatically reacts to your natural affinity, and thus often manifests itself in air-based attacks. Your roaring technique is the best possible example." "So air?" "Yes, air, you know the thing around you that you can't actually see. Heard of it?" Yeah, I get it, so I am an airhead, yeah? But you also have an affinity to wind chakra. Isn't that really rare in Konoha?" Hinata looked up. "Sure is. I personally am no good in wind-type techniques, but I bet Kakashi had a chance to copy a few of those. Maybe eventually you will be able to start on chakra nature transformation techniques. Like Sasuke's Chidori?" Naruto seemed thrilled by the idea. "Well, sort of, but that can wait." "Why wait? Think I can't handle it?" Don't be stupid, you barely have the basic understanding of the concept, and unlike your teammate, you don't have the Sharingan. Are there wind chakra S specialists in the village? Hinata seemed interested in the topic, though of course she would hardly have any use from knowing her own elemental affinity. After all, being a Hyuga, she expected to rely on the use of raw chakra, and with the latest developments she had her hands full even without elemental ninjutsu. Perhaps at a much later date she would return to this field, but right now she had no desire to try any element-based techniques. That didn't mean that the topic itself wasn't interesting though. Actually, I know only one such person. Jiraiya rubbed his chin. But I have no idea if he will agree to show you anything, Naruto. He is not directly obligated to. Who is the guy, or lady? You know him, Sarutobi Asuma. Cigarette addict? He is alright. Not awesome, but alright. Naruto nodded to himself. I heard Kakashi-sensei is busy today with other stuff. I'll go find Asuma-sensei then. Can't hurt, can it? I guess at least he will keep you in mind. Who knows, he might show you a trick or two. Alright, I am off then. Good luck with training Hinata, and keep an eye on the perv, alright? We should train together. No sparring for her until she gets the power of her blows under control. I don't want to explain Tsunade why you got admitted to the hospital with internal injuries. It was bad enough when she chewed me out the last time the girl acted out. Oh yeah, at least you didn't end up cleaning sewers. Not my fault you opened your big trap and insulted senior ninjas. Right on that one, I guess. Still, see you later, Hinata. Naruto waved and ran off, while the girl only managed to raise her hand in a slow wave before he disappeared. TSK, he is such a handful, but at least he knows some important stuff, the one that actually does matter. Jiraiya sighed and turned to the young Hyuga. The break is over, get back to work and then we will work a bit on focusing your anger. Yes, Master Jiraiya. Hinata got up and resumed her unpleasant exercise with even more determination than before. I can't believe how troublesome all of this actually is. Pick up the pace, Shikamaru. Playing shogi is all fun and good, but a little bit of hard work never hurt nobody. Asuma lit a cigarette, observing how the newest generation of Ino Shikacho was going through their new training program. Surprisingly, Ino wasn't complaining as much as he thought she would, though she was still sending him death glares after he forced them to train in the rain a few days ago. Rain itself wasn't much of a problem, but it turned the ground into mud, and it so happened that when you trained you had a tendency to fall. Right now the two genin and one lazy Chunin were busy doing some basic warm-up exercises. Asuma figured that today it would be a good idea to send them through several sparring drills. Asuma had no intention of going easy on them. Partially that was because Kurenai threatened to make his life miserable should he fail to take his responsibilities as a Jounin sensei seriously. He also thought that it has something to do with her foul mood after her mission in the prison turned out to be a royal mess. Kurenai, being new to her rank as a Jounin, took such complications and failed missions very personally, a trait that would either go away with time or would keep plaguing her thought all of her career. Damn, it is hard to find you guys. Asuma turned around, noticing how Naruto ran into the training ground. The blonde genin was out of breath, but recovered surprisingly quickly, once again demonstrating his stamina. Not that I am not happy to see you, Naruto. Why are you here and what do you mean hard to find us? We always train here. How am I supposed to know where you guys train? Good thing I ran into Ino's dad when I checked the flower shop. He seemed nice, but I somehow had a feeling he wanted to look into my head. Yamanakas, they tend to be like that. But again, why are you here? Oh, right. It turns out I have an affinity for wind-style chakra. Since you have the same affinity, thought you could. I don't know, give me a few pointers. I am new to all this chakra element business. To be honest, you put me in a delicate situation, Naruto. I am not sure if there is another ninja in the village who like me utilizes wind element chakra, so I can't just decline your request. On the other hand, I have to train my team and you already have a sensei. Is that a take a hike or sure I'll help answer? Neither. Listen, let's make a deal. My team needs a heavy sparring session, and since you trained with that Toro guy, you are not new to some rough treatment. You want me to beat up Team 10, because that is basically what sparring with Toro is about, getting the lesson beaten into you. Well, they are not individual fighters, but you still might have a hard time. Alright. Asuma whistled and then called his team over. Hey Naruto, long time no see. Chuji, being the friendliest, greeted Naruto with a smile. Shikamaru also raised his hand in a greeting while muttering something about the day instantly become even more troublesome, while Ino eyed Naruto's orange outfit with distaste. Good news. Naruto will help you all spar. His ability to make solid clones is an excellent way to provide all three of you with an opponent without wasting any time. That means if the training goes well, I might let you go an hour or two early today, Never thought I'd say it, but thanks Naruto. Ino smiled. Some extra free time was just what the doctor ordered. And all she had to do was spar with Naruto's clones. Piece of cake. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen clones appeared around the group, all ready to do as told. Excellent. Asuma breathed out a trail of smoke. One-on-one spars with the clones, taijutsu only. Taijutsu? Sensei, among us only Chuji relies on taijutsu. And why not let us fight as a team, that what we are good at? Ino remarked. True in both cases. The Jounin agreed. But that is what training all about, preparing for the worst-case scenario. I also can't let you use ninjutsu, since then it will be unfair to Naruto. Then allow him to use jutsu. Ino offered. Oh no, no way I will spar with him if her goes all out. I don't want to deal with one of his toads or whatever other troublesome technique this guy now has. Toads? What is so bad about a toad other than them being disgusting? Hey, toads are great and the boss is awesome. Naruto defended his summons, some of his clones joining in. Not to mention he is a size of small mountain. Please, don't summon any of those today, it would be such a drag. I wouldn't mind seeing a giant toad, Chuji mentioned with interest. Enough! I said taijutsu only, so taijutsu only. Seriously, act more like ninjas and less like spoiled brats. Asuma raised his voice and then led Naruto away, leaving his team to their training. I am ready, teach me, teach me. Naruto practically skipped when they were a good distance away. You are not going to make it easy, are you? Huh! Whatever. Listen, wind chakra is a great attacking element. With enough training it can cut through almost anything, but to use that ability you have to master nature manipulation, and that can take years. So you brought me here to tell me that I am years away from doing anything cool? Basically. I will later show you some basic exercises and you can start working in your free time. Mastering chakra nature transformation is tough, some never actually achieve such advanced levels of chakra control, but you are known for doing the impossible, so I won't say anything else. You said you'll show me those exercises later, what will we do right now? I don't want to teach you an advanced jutsu without talking with Kakashi first, but there is a relatively simple technique that can really help out in a tight spot. It is not flashy and you can't really hurt yourself by trying it out. Sounds great. A new technique is never a bad thing. Alright, it is called a flame death barrier technique. It is designed to counter fire-based attacks, and that is why it is so useful. You see, generally it is a bad idea to use a wind-style jutsu against a fire-style one, because all it would do is make the fire jutsu stronger. See, if I know the fireball technique, I can use my affinity to wind element to make a fire jutsu stronger. You catch on faster than I thought. I guess it is all about motivation. You are right, there are some devastating combinations possible. But the jutsu I will show is not about that. A small demonstration first. See that tree? Sure. I want you to launch a fireball technique at it once I do my jutsu. Asuma stepped to the side and flashed through a few hand seals. Wind style, flame death barrier. Naruto felt the air shift slightly, but other than that nothing happened, at least nothing he could see, so once Asuma gave a nod, Naruto unleashed the fireball. It seemed that the tree was doomed when all of a sudden the fireball disappeared after passing some invisible line. How? I mean... Whoa. Yep, a very simple jutsu, but it nullifies most fire-based techniques, provided you use it correctly. The drawback is that keeping it up costs chakra and the size of the barrier is limited also. What barrier? I saw nothing. Ah yes, the best part. The jutsu does nothing more than create a zone without any oxygen. No oxygen means no fire. For a low C-rank jutsu this technique is quite good. Of course you understand that it's useless against practically anything else. Can't wait to see Sasuke's face when I use that one. Great! Learning to use her new abilities always left Hinata drained. Her body was simply not used to such strain, and by the end of the day she felt almost empty. Her ability to maintain complete mental control was also far from the best. She no longer lashed out when provoked, but Jiraiya was still able to get her to forget about the main target and turn angrily to distractions. But the main thing about all of this was that Hinata admitted to herself that she enjoyed that feeling of fury surfacing. It gave her a sense of freedom from various limitations that always surrounded her. It was almost intoxicating. Jiraiya kept a really close eye on her, watching how she progressed slowly, but steadily. Strangely enough, the timid quiet girl seemed unnaturally happy while trying to master the chakra of tailed beast. She looked thrilled, like a predator in the middle of a hunt. Jukin! Jiraiya's shadow clone didn't react in time and was blasted back, almost instantly getting reduced to a small cloud of white smoke. Good. See, you just need to focus that anger on a target. We will resume tomorrow. Yes, Master Jiraiya. The girl nodded, the reddish tint leaving her eyes. She waited until the Sannin disappeared and then turned to the side. You can come out now, but I doubt he didn't know you were nearby. Chapter 63. Generally, ninjas demonstrated a great variety in techniques. There were hundreds of various ninjutsu and genjutsu techniques. But what all ninjas had in common was that most had at least the basic understanding of taijutsu. There were many styles and a great deal of techniques, but it all depended on the ninja and how he wanted to use it. A shinobi with a specialization in taijutsu was a rarity, but such ninja were often powerful fighters. They mostly trained in one particular, refined style that covered a single narrow field. A typical example was a member of the Hyuga clan, using juken to cause damage by controlled bursts of chakra instead of pure physical strikes. Guy and Lee used a completely different approach, their Goken style being based around speed and utilizing fast kicks and punches to rip flesh and shatter bones. Other ninjas used taijutsu differently. Kakashi, whose strength was mainly his vast arsenal of ninjutsu, used hand-to-hand combat to create an opening for an attack, or to dispose of weaker enemies that didn't pose a serious threat and were not worth wasting chakra. Kurenai didn't like getting all close and personal with the enemy, and her limited skills in close quarters mainly were aimed to her own defense, in order for her to pull back and use her illusionary skills. Naruto, on the other hand, now had an experience of training with Toro, whose hand-to-hand combat techniques were used to quickly cause significant damage. Naturally, while training, Naruto along with his teammates learned quite a bit of those moves, and now his clones were ready to use those against members of Team 10. It wasn't a style, but a mix of kicks, punches, pain locks, throws and submission holds, giving the user a great variety of moves to use. The members of Team 10 were all very different in the way they fought. Ino was aggressive in her attacks, though reckless. She clearly favored using her long legs to deliver strong kicks and at the same time keep her foe at distance, knowing that her ability to take a punch was quite limited. Shikamaru, as always, kept true to his lazy nature, preferring to let the clone make the first move. He kept moving back, dodging or blocking, waiting for an opening. Chuji was practically an opposite of Ino. He was slow and preferred to use punches instead of kicks, but what he lacked in speed and grace he compensated with raw power, using his larger mass to ram his foe into the ground. Tisk, so what now? Shikamaru sighed when he and his teammates each reduced a clone to a cloud of smoke. Still, there were quite a few left for them to work against, and a moment later each faced against a fresh opponent. This time things were different, and the lazy Chunin with frustration understood that the previous clones were not meant to actually give them a serious challenge, but to observe the way members of Team 10 fought. Turns out that Naruto used his clones not just as cannon fodder anymore, but as means to test out his foe, and the fact that the original Naruto was not around never meant that his clones would not benefit from the same tactic. Stay still, you annoying idiot! Ino spun around to deliver a strong roundhouse kick, but instead saw how her foot was grabbed by her opponent, who with a smirk roughly twisted it to the side, flipping the girl, making her land roughly face down. She was immediately pinned down by the clone. From her position on the ground, she saw how Shikamaru was overwhelmed by a combination of strikes that painfully sent the unofficial leader of Team 10 to the ground with bruised hands. Chuji fared better, until he and the clone went rolling on the ground. Somehow the clone managed to grab Chuji's leg, and the young Akimichi found himself in a painful calf crush submission hold with only two options: surrender, or risk a broken leg. Come on, you each have several of us to take out, one of the clones said with a mocking tone. That's it, you are dead. Once released, Ino jumped up and launched herself at the clone. Still, her strike was blocked while the clone maneuvered his hips under Ino and used his whole body as a lever, throwing the kunoichi over his head. Toro instructed them to finish that move by a punch to the throat, but somehow the blonde Jinchuriki doubted Asuma would appreciate such brutality. Damn, Asuma, why did you have us do something so troublesome? Shikamaru moaned, looking up. The clouds looked so peaceful, but there was no chance the shadow clone created by Naruto would let him enjoy the view. Asuma instructed Naruto for over an hour. He didn't stay to see Naruto finish up with his new technique, but did demonstrate some very basic exercise for those who wanted to start training in the use of wind chakra. The blonde genin was a bit too loud and active for his taste, but his eagerness to learn and work was beyond doubt, and that was what really mattered. It was nice to work with someone so highly motivated. His own Team 10, despite their excellent team spirit, ability to cooperate and perform complicated combination techniques, lacked that eagerness to improve. But you couldn't have it all. So, how does it go? Asuma returned to the clearing, where his students were now sitting by a tree, all looking tired. They also were a complete mess, even Ino, not to mention each had several visible bruises. I hate you! Ino pointed at Asuma. Those clones used us as training dummies until we finally took them out. Even my hair hurts. He is slippery like an eel. Chuji frowned for once not stuffing himself with junk food. I personally did not expect this, but I might get you to spar with him more often. What? Ino fumed. He is a good challenge for you three. Sure, if you could take him on together, and use your techniques, you take him out with some effort. But there is always a chance that you will be separated or forced into close quarters combat. I'd rather you get roughed up by a fellow leaf ninja than killed by some rogue nin. You can't expect to go through taijutsu training without sweating and earning a few bruises. Why him exactly? Ino didn't seem happy. Not only him. Your team is well suited for capture missions, so you can expect such assignments in the future. Shikamaru is great at planning out such delicate operations after all. But I am thinking of getting you to work with Team 8, who are excellent at tracking targets, and Team 7, which is basically a heavy assault team. They all have a thing or two to learn from you guys, but that is also true the other way around. This will be such a drag, but I guess we can't avoid it. TSK, being a ninja is so much work. Oh well, I guess we better suck it up. Doesn't sound like you to make an effort, Shikamaru, Chuji commented. My mother nagging me all the time is enough for me. I don't need a Sima doing the same. Besides, he is right. The market district was one of the busiest places in Konoha. It never truly quieted down, as even at night some of the shops were open. Being a ninja village, Konoha wasn't exactly a center of trade and commerce, but it was a heavily populated settlement, and where there were people, they generally had money they potentially were willing to spend on something. The district wasn't a popular place among ninjas, at least not usually. The specialized ninja here was only sold in several key places, with the civilians not having the right to shop there. Even specialized ninja clothes were off limits to the civilians, as they often incorporated designs unique to the various craftsmen and supplied the shinobi with their gear. But when it came to everything else, the market district was the best place to be at. After finishing up with Hinata, Jiraiya headed there, looking around for something that could catch his eye. He bought a stick of dango, and kept strolling down the street, easily maneuvering through the crowd. He finally noticed a traveling merchant, selling books. Hey there, got anything new? Of course. The merchant grinned, looking at the potential customer. Jiraiya's clothes were not fancy, but they were made from fine materials, saying that the man had money to spend. What do you prefer, comedy, romantic novels, something for a more adult reader? Today I'd prefer something in history. Jiraiya tilted his head. For a moment the merchant stiffened, but then nodded. You are in luck. I have this fine example of world-class literature. The tale describing the events of the last great ninja war. Some interesting facts there, I assure you. Sounds promising. I hope you are right about it. Jiraiya accepted the book and paid the merchant. The Sannin then walked away while flipping through the pages of the book. He eventually came to his apartment. Once there, he pulled out a kunai, carefully slicing through the cover of the book until he pulled out a slip of paper with numbers. After that, he kept flipping through the pages, glancing at the piece of paper once in a while. Very interesting information, Jiraiya. Tsunade again scanned through the message. Jiraiya had a whole network of spies and informants sending him information. That one of the reasons Jiraiya had to travel around so often. Some of his agents simply couldn't send out a message without blowing their cover. Interesting and disturbing. Personally, I do not enjoy anything that has to do with the hidden mist. Hiruzen shook his head. After encountering Itachi, Jiraiya began to gather information. Itachi's partner Hoshigaki Kisame was a very interesting character. One of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, Kisame went rogue some time ago, but the hidden mist was still the place that could provide information on that powerful ninja. So far, getting any kind of data proved difficult, but the last message received opened up certain possibilities and raised further questions. The weird thing is that even though Kisame is officially listed as a rogue ninja and has a nice price on his head, it appears that the hunter ninjas from the hidden mist never went after him. He was basically allowed to leave. Yugura has a reputation for setting up a tyrannical regime. An idea of simply allowing such a ninja to go rogue, something doesn't add up. True, that is odd, but to answer this question we must take a more direct approach. Tsunade agreed. Sending someone to the hidden mist is a risk. We don't need a political scandal. Hiruzen voiced his opinion. What if we send someone whose connection with us is not exactly official? Should he fail, it will be impossible to pin it on us, and besides, we all know that he's quite a capable infiltrator. After all, before the invasion he gave us quite a headache. Jiraiya pointed out. Toro is a good candidate, but there are a few matters that might prove hard to solve. The medical ninja leaned back in her chair. First of all, the idea of infiltrating the hidden mist. That alone is hard, and we basically want him to get into the archives of the hunter ninjas. I say it is not realistic. He will need inside help. Hiruzen pulled the pipe out of his mouth for a second. From the information brought by Jiraiya, it is clear that the political situation in the Hidden Mist is highly unstable. Yugura is facing serious opposition. The whole village is basically on the verge of an uprising, a civil war even. That opposition might provide Toro with some help, should we promise certain benefits for them. The Hidden Mist will require help to restore itself after a civil war, and Konoha's economical power will be of use for them. We ourselves are recovering from an invasion, sensei. Tsunade frowned. Yes, but trade can be a mutually beneficial business. Also, you shouldn't forget the political aspect. If we officially recognize their new government and the new Mizukage, it will be of great use to them in order to regain political grounds. As for us, we will be able to restore political ties that were all but severed during Yugura's reign. Good point, sensei. Jiraiya nodded and turned to Tsunade. What is the second problem? Toro himself. He is working with us against Orochimaru. He is not exactly obligated to take this mission, and I see no way to convince him. What could we possibly offer? It can't hurt to talk to him at least. I feel that he will aid us. Hiruzen Sarutobi once again put his pipe in his mouth. How come he didn't leave an impression of a person who would do something from the kindness of his heart? Sarutobi Hiruzen smirked, but didn't reply. His students were both incredibly powerful and talented ninjas, but some things could not be trained, and there was also knowledge that could not be gained even by Jiraiya's spies. These are all the materials we have on that particular even. I am sorry, the information is scarce. The librarian placed the 2 books and a scroll on the table. It is fine. I am not looking for particular details, I merely require to confirm a few facts. Toro nodded, unrolling the scroll. The librarian noted that the young ninja had his right hand bandaged up, and by the looks of it he did that recently. Still, he wasn't bleeding, so there was no danger to the books, and thus no reason to limit his access. Besides, ninja often supported various injuries, and the librarian theorized that the bandages most likely hid a burn. The woman walked away, having other duties to attend to, leaving the archer to his reading. He kept quiet for over an hour until a female Anbu operative appeared next to him. Anbu were not a common sight in the library, at least not in the public section. But if one was willing to go deeper, he would eventually come across a corridor leading underground and into the Hokage mountain. That was the official archive of Konoha, and was the security there was exceptionally tight. After all, one had to protect his secrets. Even those working in the library had no authority to even approach that place. Only high-ranking members of the interrogation department had access, and even then a limited one. The full access could be granted only by the Hokage, and only for a very limited amount of time. You are summoned to the Hokage's office, please accompany me. The librarian will put your reading materials away. The Anbu spoke in the usual monotone, but even though the mask modified the voice, it wasn't hard to tell it belonged to a female, and it didn't go well with the gruff figure of an Anbu operative, and their gray uniform. Toro didn't answer. Instead, he merely stood up and followed the Anbu operative out of the library. Once they left, another Anbu appeared, this one quickly glancing through the things Toro read and then moved over to the librarian. Toro listened to Tsunade silently, only nodding a couple of times. The mission he was offered was a very dangerous one. The Hidden Mist had a reputation of killing spies on the spot. His silence and a neutral expression said nothing about his willingness to accept the task. Tsunade had actually bet 100 ryo that he would decline, and her sensei gladly accepted the bet. Nobody will force you to accept this mission, Toro-san, but as you can see, you are the best possible candidate for the job. I am the candidate that minimizes the risk for you, Lady Tsunade. There is no need to try and make things sound better than they actually are. I can see your logic and admit that the course of action you propose is beneficial to the village. That doesn't mean you will accept, now does it? Tsunade sighed. Correct. Neither does it necessarily mean I will decline. You need time to think? No, I accept the mission. Just like that? Tsunade raised an eyebrow and glanced at her sensei, who gave her a triumphant smirk. My reasons are my own. I only ask you to be vigilant. Orochimaru is building up forces, the breakout from the prison is proof enough. He will make his move, and we all know who he targets. We can handle my former student, Toro-san. Don't forget, I can go to great lengths to protect the citizens of Konoha, Hiruzen stated. Then there is nothing else to say. I will leave first thing in the morning. Toro bowed to Hiruzen and left without saying anything else. With a groan, Tsunade pulled out the money and gave it to her old sensei, who once again smirked. Still find it strange he accepted so easily. Jiraiya seemed puzzled. Suddenly an Anbu appeared in the room, whispering something to Hiruzen. Tsunade was a bit annoyed that the Anbu still seemed to treat Hiruzen with far more respect than her. Ah yes, of course, I should have guessed myself. The old Kage smiled. Sensei, care to share that with us? Tsunade rested her chin on her palm. It appears Toro was researching the history of the Kaguya clan. Well, what's so strange about that, considering Orochimaru transplanted their bloodline into his body? I'd be curious too, Jiraiya pointed out. You both seem to forget one little, but crucial detail about that clan. They were wiped out by the hidden mist after all. And when one clan gets wiped out, his enemies often enjoy the spoils of war. Chapter 64. I wasn't spying on you, I was just observing, that is different. And many would argue with that. Hinata shook her head. After Jiraiya left, she decided to talk with her sister, who had spent a good 2 hours watching her sister repeatedly perform various exercises. Most likely the girl didn't even hope to remain unnoticed. It was kind of foolish to expect that a Byakugan user would not spot someone around. So what? I was curious, you know. You don't train at home anymore, instead you have to work with that weirdo. How is Neji treating you? Hinata smiled, knowing that her cousin was now given the task to help Hanabi reach her full potential. Neji was a bit of a workaholic and could practice various forms of Juken for hours without taking a break. Hinata doubted that Hanabi, despite her natural talent, had the same level of dedication to their clan fighting style. I don't like him. He is rough, cold, I often feel like I got the stuffing beaten out of me and he doesn't seem pleased no matter how hard I try. And don't change the subject, we are talking about you, not me. Hanabi seemed to realize that halfway through her tirade. Don't give Neji a hard time. He has a lot on his mind. He is the one giving me a hard time. Hanabi shook her head. Anyway, when will things get back to normal? Normal? I mean, things were simpler before and I thought that I understood you. Now I don't. How come? I am still me. Hinata seemed surprised at what her little sister said. No, you are different. You feel different. I can't understand what changed exactly. Father seems sad too. When he talks about you, it is like you are somewhere far away and he is not sure you will come back. But how can it be if you are in your room just down the hall? Sometimes there are walls between people that can't be seen, but that separate them. I don't want there to be such walls. Who put it there anyway? We did ourselves. We built it, brick by brick, over the years. Can we, I don't know, break it? Hanabi looked almost hopeful at the idea. Of course we can. But it won't happen. Why? I don't want to break it. I don't understand. Why would you? The walls, they can separate people, that is true. But they can also protect. Right now I need that protection more than you may think. But you are my sister, what if I don't want there to be a wall between us? Don't worry. Hinata smiled. Whenever you need, you just knock and I will open the gate, like I did right now. What about father? I want to be, but I can't. It hurts too much. Hanabi didn't seem happy with that answer, but didn't object either, she just looked away. It is getting late, let's go home. Yeah. Home. Hanabi nodded and was about to follow her sister when she noticed something that escaped her attention before. Your hair. What? Has something stuck in it? No, it is longer. Oh, right. I decided to try growing it out. Do you think it will suit me? Since when do you care about your looks? Just let's go home, alright? Fine. You are weird, you know that? I guess. The older sister giggled. We all are weird in one way or another. No, I am not weird, I am perfectly normal. I have no freaky habits or anything. You like pickles with honey? Never speak of it. Of course, weird little sister. Well, I mean, you are weirder than me, so there. Hanabi crossed her hands on her chest with a pout, making her sister laugh once again. Sorry, you see I tripped and hurt my knee, so I had to go to the hospital to see if it was serious, and there was this lovely nurse. You know, every time he comes 3 hours late and tells us a lie, I wonder if this time it is going to be believable. It never happens. Sasuke rolled his eyes when Kakashi appeared with another lame excuse for his tardiness. Actually, I can believe the part about the nurse, Sakura mentioned. Yeah, you being a perv and all, sensei. Naruto grinned. And yet you are the one famous for inventing perverted jutsus. Kakashi sighed. Hey, those are meant to be used against perverts. Takes one to know how a pervert thinks, Sasuke pointed out. I am not a perv. I respect girls, I didn't style my sexy jutsu after any female I know after all. Good for you, because if you would do that I'd kill you. Slowly. Sakura flipped her pink hair. Whatever, at least I don't read dirty book in public. No, you hang out with the author. Big improvement, dope. Sasuke smirked and turned to Kakashi. Training or mission? Mission. Tsunade-sama said she needed a genin team for something important. Let's go. Important? Naruto mused. Maybe we will get to protect some important man or something. Like another drunk bridge builder? I'll pass. Sasuke shook his head. The team made its way to Hokage's office, where after a short wait the secretary allowed them inside. Team 7 requesting an assignment, Kakashi said in an official tone, though that hardly was necessary. Aha, Team Disaster, huh, let's see. Tsunade began searching through the scrolls with mission requests. Disaster? Sakura looked confused by such a name. Yeah. Somehow whenever your team is given a mission it turns into a royal mess that leaves me with more paperwork than I can stand, not to mention your sensei is always late with an official report. Not our fault, Granny. Naruto frowned. Try this one, Lady Tsunade. Shizune quickly handed her master a scroll before the famous ninja would get into another argument with the blonde genin. She didn't mind these little shouting contests between the two. Things were rarely quiet with Tsunade and Naruto around, but with Tsunade's short temper it often resulted in collateral damage. Well, seems like a good task for a genin team of your level. High level C rank. You won't even have to travel anywhere. Trouble in the village? Kakashi guessed. Yes. It appears that the market is flooded with counterfeit medicine. Anything from vitamins to antibiotics. Of course, everything used by the medical ninjas is checked, but the civilian market suffers, and I am receiving reports that several people ended up in the hospital with toxic poisoning. Useless, but harmless fakes is one thing, but I am putting my hand down when it comes to this. What is needed of us exactly? Kakashi spoke. Considering the amount of fakes they have to produce somewhere. That place is not necessarily inside the village if whoever is behind this is a part of some larger organization, Sasuke noted. Very good, Uchiha. Tsunade agreed. But even if so, they would need some sort of a storage space inside the city. Your mission is to locate that place and capture whoever is in charge. Once you do that, get him or her over to Ibiki. That is all. Seems simple enough. Naruto shrugged. Oh, shut up. I don't know how you will be able to mess this one up, but if there is a way I am sure you will find it. Now go. You heard her, Team 7 has a mission to complete. I hope that doesn't mean we will be doing all the work while you will be just observing us. Naruto tilted his head questionably. Then what would my benefits as a sensei be? A man wearing slightly messy clothes walked into the alley and leaned on the wall. Well? Kakashi asked. All the same, I know nothing, I heard nothing, I see nothing. Sasuke released the transformation jutsu, and once the smoke cleared, the man was replaced with the usual image of the last Uchiha. Kakashi figured they would first try asked around the few apothecaries, where the fake medicine was sold at. It was also agreed they would use transformation jutsu for that purpose. It would be unwise to show that ninjas now handled the matter and were snooping around. It appears the shop owners are scared to tell us anything, Kakashi concluded. Well, we could wait around to see who makes the deliveries and then tail them. The apothecaries could be supplied by a dozen of different manufacturers. How do we check them all? Sasuke seemed unsure even though the proposition came from Sasuke. Ahem, since when are numbers a problem for Naruto? Sure, I am awesome. Need a bunch of guys tailed, I am your man. The Jinchuriki nodded. Alright, then you handle that part, Naruto. Don't get into trouble. Kakashi agreed. Sakura, I want you to head to the medical labs to see if they could get something from the analysis of the counterfeit medicaments. Will do. The girl nodded. Finally, people are not scared without a reason. Sasuke, I want you to check the records to see if anything suspicious happened to one of the shop owners lately. He might have been an example to scare others into silence. Fine. I in the meantime will try to find some of the people I know. They won't take me kindly if I bring someone with me, so we all have our tasks. We will meet after sunset at our usual meeting point. Kakashi-sensei, knowing you, after sunset is closer to midnight, right? The blonde scratched his head. After sunset is after sunset, Naruto. The masked Jounin shook his head. He is late. Again. Sakura sighed when she and her teammate gathered on the bridge. The night was a bit cold and Sakura rubbed her shoulders for once being jealous of Naruto's jumpsuit. It was hideous in her opinion, but the very least it seemed to be warm. Could be worse. Naruto shrugged. Worse? At least it isn't raining. The blonde smiled, but the universe seemed to be keen on proving him wrong, and a few minutes later drops began to fall, quickly becoming one hell of a rain. Naruto, when you will have a urge to comment on the weather, don't. Sasuke scowled. As a ninja he could endure getting wet, but it didn't mean he enjoyed it. Sakura cringed, remembering how Toro forced her to swim in her clothes. This wasn't much better. Hey there. See, I am not even late much. Kakashi appeared behind them with an umbrella over his head. You are still late, what is your excuse this time? Naruto hated the rain, his outfit becoming heavy. I stopped to buy an umbrella. That actually made sense, but surprisingly I hate that answer even more. Sasuke fought down an urge to try and rip the umbrella out of Kakashi's hand. Well, how about we go someplace less wet and talk? Needless to say that the genin had no objections. Unfortunately, Kakashi's offer didn't exactly live up to their expectations. You call this less wet? Sakura fumed. It isn't raining here, now is it? The masked man closed the umbrella. Thus a good place as any. We are under the same bridge we usually meet at. What are we, homeless bums? Sakura hated her lazy sensei right now. Really, we could have gone and eat somewhere, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto agreed with the female member of his team. I can't treat you guys to supper. I have no money left. No money? Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Spent it on the umbrella. Kakashi pointed at the thing in his hand. So, what did you guys find out? Naruto. Oh, right. I and my clones tailed a bunch of guys. Most were nobody important, but one seemed shady. He returned to what looked like a rundown apartment complex on the edge of the village. I didn't come closer, but the place looks as if it has been deserted for a few years at least. I mean, it doesn't seem to fall down on your head, but nobody would be living there, that is for sure. A large roomy building can easily be converted into a storage area. Why did you say the man seemed shady? Kakashi asked. Well, all other delivery guys had the shop owner sign those delivery forms, while the one I am talking about merely handed the shop owner the box and left. He also seemed to be on edge or something. Good work. Kakashi approved. Now you, Sakura. Nothing that can tell us where to look. But the experts say that the fake medicaments are not just reckless use of toxic materials. They seem to be made that way with a purpose. That is troubling. Making a profit is one thing, but deliberately poisoning people. Strange. Kakashi seemed disturbed by Sakura's report. Sasuke? 2 possible leads. One of the shop owners had his son beaten up by what seemed like a group of drunkards. Another case is where the 5 of another shop owner was robbed. Report says she was beaten badly. In both cases there were numerous breaks, cuts, long-lasting injuries. If a violent drunken brawl I can understand, then a mugger beating a woman half to death seems unlikely. Yes, those were not isolated incidents, just made look that way. The Chunin sighed. Usually thugs make an impression by destroying property or beating the owner himself. These target families. Not only does this tell us much about how serious they are, but they are keen on keeping those apothecaries working. What about you, Kakashi-sensei? What did you find out? Naruto glanced at his teammates. Something strange as well. It appears none of the major criminal organizations have anything to do with this. Actually, they themselves wouldn't mind getting rid of the potential competition. What puzzles me is that it's hard to get inside this criminal world without inside help. These guys hate to share, you know. So, we check out the place Naruto found then? Sasuke readjusted the sword on his back, as if preparing for a fight. Yes, that is what we will have to do next. Kakashi glanced to the side at the wall of rain. Once the rain stops. The hidden mist village was a bit isolated when it came to ninja villages. It was located on an island, so the first thing Toro had to do is get to the coast. He decided against taking the fastest path, by buying a place on one of the merchant ships. Instead, he would travel from an island to an island, keeping a low profile. Ninja villages often had informants at the key traveling centers, and anyone wishing to remain unseen would have to use different means of getting around. Toro silently landed on a thick branch and pulled out the map. It contained no markings that could tell about where he was actually going, but it was quite detailed, at least when it came down to topography. So far, Toro made it halfway to the border of the Land of Fire. He traveled at a moderate pace, preferring to save energy for possible trouble. After thinking for a minute or so, he jumped down, landing next to a small pond. This was a good place to rest. He didn't make fire, just a ration bar to restore strength. Those things were perhaps horrible when it came to taste, but they had everything his body needed. The archer then sat down and untied the bandages covering his right arm, revealing that his skin was covered with mild electrical burns. He seemed to concentrate, until the soft crackling sounds appear. With visible effort, Toro tried generating chakra and turning its nature to resemble electricity. So far his progress seemed minimal. He wasted most of the chakra without any success, and the amounts that did change its nature immediately went out of his control, often leaving a small electrical burn before disappearing. Such direct method of mastering nature transformation was rarely used. By controlling chakra in such a direct way you had a better feel of it, would be able to master it sooner, but until then you were prone to self-inflicted injuries. Hardly crippling injuries, but in most cases rather painful. Still, in his cases that wasn't much of a problem. Tisk. Toro lowered his hand. The slow progress was something he just had to cope with. He slowly made it over to the pond, pulling down his cloth mask and splashing cold, refreshing water onto his face. When the water settled, he saw his own reflection stare on him. It wasn't clear why he seemed captivated by his own reflection, but he just stared at it, as if trying to recognize his own face, as if trying to remember something that his mind refused to remember. A raindrop fell from the sky, instantly making the reflection blurry. Moments later, more and more raindrops began to fall, completely ruining the image, and Toro stood up, still for some reason unable to tear his gaze away from the water, though no longer it showed a clear reflection of his face. How fitting, the archer muttered. No matter how hard I try, I seem to be unable to see. For the first time in what felt like ages, Toro's face betrayed obvious pain as he sat down under the tree, minding the downpour. There was a pain even he couldn't ignore. Who he was, where did he came from? Why him? He had to come from somewhere. Perhaps he once had a family, siblings, loved ones. Perhaps there were things he enjoyed doing. He didn't know, and he hated that. He knew that Orochimaru stole his past life, but he couldn't even remember what he had lost. It was painful when you had no idea who you actually were. But the archer didn't hate the snake Sannin, not with passion at least. As was once said, he merely refused to be a pawn that could be easily sacrificed. One must never throw his life away, he may only sacrifice it for what he holds dear. Toro didn't know where that idea came from, but it was in his head ever since he became the failed experiment of Orochimaru. Perhaps it was the only link he still had to his past, and that was why he held onto it with all the strength he could muster. That was what allowed him to endure his pain. Chapter 65. The place looks deserted. Sure, I am sure. Saw it with my own eyes. I don't know, it is dark and quiet, doesn't seem like a place that is used actively. HN. Sasuke tilted his head. You didn't expect there to be a sign, did you? Sasuke, I believe Sakura just wants to be sure before going in. Kakashi sighed. But unfortunately we can only be sure after we actually go in, so let's not wait or the rain might start again. The Jounin stretched slightly and settled his new umbrella on the edge of the roof. He would be able to pick it up later. After all, it was just a regular tool used to protect oneself from getting soaked, thus it would only get in the way during the mission. But Kakashi knew that ninjas, being creative people, managed to convert even an umbrella into a lethal weapon, popular among the ninjas of the Hidden Mist and Hidden Rain villages and even in some other countries. That weapon had an advantage over many other ninja tools. A ninja wearing a disguise could often carry one around in the open. After all, it was meant to look like an ordinary umbrella you could buy in any shop. Let's go. Kakashi shook his head, wondering why he thought about such ninja gear, but admitted he wouldn't mind getting one as a souvenir. Sasuke, you first. All right. The young Uchiha took a running start and leaped over the wide street, towards the roof of the rundown building. In the darkness of the night he was but a shadow that sailed through the air, impossible to notice unless you knew what you were looking for. He landed silently and went into a roll until he jumped up, looking around, ready to draw his sword should there be trouble. Sakura was next, and like Sasuke she took a running start. The ninjas could leap over great distances, but even they had a limit. Jumping over such a wide street was obviously not beyond their abilities, but they needed proper momentum to cover the distance in one jump. Unlike Sasuke, who went into a roll, Sakura slid on the roof's surface after landing, her fingers brushing against the surface to keep balance and not flip over. Naruto showed a bit more physical strength than his teammates. His jump carried him all the way to the surface of center of the roof, and he landed there neatly on his feet with quite a bit of force. The next moment Kakashi blurred into existence next to him, and Naruto glanced at him, muttering something about his sensei showing off. I am telling you, it is a bad idea. We are not supposed to be out here. I don't care if you want to smoke. Two gruff-looking men climbed onto the roof and walked right past the ninjas as if those were invisible. Sasuke, whose hand jumped towards the hilt of his blade, glanced at Sakura. The girl had her hands in a seal, maintaining the illusion that too far proved effective. I don't care, and who is going to tell on us? We are getting paid for sitting around, might as well have a cigarette. One of the men approached the edge of the roof and lit his cigarette. The next moment he saw his partner land on the ground unconscious, with someone wearing a bright orange jumpsuit standing over him. His eyes registered the forehead protector with the leaf symbol, and he opened his mouth, the lit cigarette sliding out of his mouth and landing on the ground. Be quiet, it is late, people around might be sleeping. The man felt a hand grab his throat and lift him off the ground. He saw a man with gray hair and a mask covering most of his face holding him by the throat without any visible effort. He wanted to scream, but the grip over his neck barely allowed him to breathe, let alone speak. Smoking isn't good for your health. Kakashi stomped on the lit cigarette, putting it out. I keep telling my friend that, but I guess smoking runs in his family. Who? The man tried to ask, but Kakashi narrowed his only visible eye looking at him. No, we are asking questions here and you are answering. Got it? And no. The Jounin seemed disappointed at the answer and moved his hand. Now the man was hanging over the edge of the roof, and it was a long way down. No? Well, a no is a no. I'll guess I'll have to let you go then. I mean, yes. The man managed out, and a moment later he landed roughly on the roof, coughing and rubbing his neck. He wasn't given much time to recover as he felt the cold metal touch his exposed neck. The blade was held by a young boy with dark eyes and a neutral expression on his face. He didn't say anything, but that wasn't necessary. Behind the one with the sword stood a girl with pink hair, but somehow she didn't seem less dangerous than her companions. Bottom floor, a secret door behind the big crate. 2 guards. You need a password, but I don't know it. And what were you and your friend doing here? Kakashi asked. We were here just in case. We were supposed to alert others if there was trouble or drive away anyone snooping around. Seemed like easy money. Jobs that offer easy money tend to be hazardous. The Jounin mentioned and nodded to Sasuke, who pulled the blade away, but then slammed the hilt into the back of the man's head, knocking him out. Any more doubts, Sakura? Naruto turned to the only female present. Give it a rest. Fine, you were right, I am sorry I doubted you. No problem. Naruto grinned. The group carefully made their way down. The place was covered in, and the stairs seemed to be ready to collapse any moment, but they still got down without any problems, though Naruto pulled up the collar of his jacket, because the dust made his nose itch and he didn't want to sneeze. Bet the mask helps, wonder if he wear that just for these things. Naruto looked at Sasuke. Tisk, doubted about the reason, but I guess it does help. The Uchiha agreed. Why do we always get into places that are smelly, dirty, or disgusting in some way? Sakura asked nobody in particular, and thus her question remained without an answer. The area here is much cleaner, look, the people often walk down this corridor. Sasuke pointed at the floor. They had just reached the first floor, moving carefully in order to not stumble upon unwanted company. I guess that is the crate. Naruto pointed at the huge wooden box. He and Sasuke moved it to the side with a bit of an effort, revealing a very solid-looking metal door behind it. By the looks of it, the door could withstand a powerful explosion should it come to that. Sasuke, you are up. Kakashi pointed at the hatch on the door. Fine. The young Uchiha approached the door, his Sharingan coming to live, and knocked. Of course, they didn't count on politeness to get them inside, and when the hatch opened, the one behind it was forced to stare into Sasuke's spinning Sharingan. The genjutsu took effect before the man could even ask for the password, and a moment later he obediently opened the door. Hey, what gives? You know the boss says you have to ask for that dumb password before letting anyone inside. A voice came from the inside once the door opened and Naruto jumped inside, pouncing a tall man and slamming him to the ground. The blonde then grabbed the head and smashed it against the concrete floor, leaving the man unconscious on the floor. Very good. Kakashi slammed the back of his hand against the temple of the man nearby that stood silently with a blank look over his face, still under the effect of Sasuke's illusion. The blow easily knocked him out as well. These aren't simple thugs, Sakura observed. They are too well armed and are dressed for a fight. Low-rate mercenaries. Cheap, but effective considering the price, Kakashi concluded. Behind the metal door was a narrow corridor that ended with a staircase leading straight down. Whoa, these guys have set up here for good. Naruto frowned. They ended up in a gallery overlooking what looked like a huge chemical lab. They manufacture that stuff here as well, Sasuke concluded. We split up. Sasuke, you and Sakura take the ventilation shafts. I bet they have some sort of a lab here. Find it and try to secure whatever data you may find. It might help treat those that got sick already. Me and Naruto will look for that boss the mercenaries mentioned. Without any arguments, the team split in two, though Sakura did have a sour look over having to crawl through the ventilation shaft now. The facility basically occupied the basement of the building, that was illegally expanded to fit everything and to hide it. The deserted building over it was just a cover. It took some time to set everything up, but it was essential not to hurry as attracting the attention of the ninjas would be catastrophic. The plan was simple, keep things low, get profit, but never gained the attention of the shinobi forces. Few dared to set up inside an actual ninja village, but Jinuzo was a risky man by nature, and so far his plan worked like a charm. After the invasion, the ninjas were too busy to handle matters they considered beneath them. As for the civilian law enforcement, a couple of generous bribes was all he had to do. Just in case his men made photos when the bribes were handed over, so now he also could blackmail the officials should they dare demand more. Jinuzo-dano, here are the numbers you requested. Good, good. The man nodded, scanning through the paper. Everything was going well, and he didn't look into the numbers too much as long as he saw that the profits increased. For an organized crime, the things were very well accounted for. Jinuzo preferred to always know details to keep track of things. The only thing he really never looked into was the stuff he actually forced the local apothecaries to sell, but as long as it fitted the condition, he didn't care. Wait, who are you? You can't be here. The door smashed open and one of the mercenaries flew inside, crashing into a bookcase and knocking it over. The unfortunate man in the end got buried under a heap of books, while his legs were trapped under the fallen bookcase. Who dares? Jinuzo reached for his own katana that was on the table, but two kunai flew through the air. One knocked the blade off the table, sending it out of Jinuzo's reach, while the second left a long cut on his forearm, forcing him to pull back. Stand guard, Naruto. Kakashi walked inside, while Naruto remained by the door after throwing his kunai. Hope that hurts. Naruto cursed, but then turned away in order to do as ordered. Jinuzo scowled, silently promising to kill the brat for giving him such a painful cut. Quite a place you've set up here, I am impressed. Kakashi leaned on the table, as Jinuzo pushed back in his armchair. Now let's make things clear. We don't like you, and if you even blink the wrong way I will hurt you badly. Questions? Well, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto called out, and the Jounin turned around, noticing how several mercenaries appeared, lining up in the doorway. All were armed with bows and were ready to release a volley at the genin and his Jounin-sensei. Kill them! Jinuzo yelled and dived under his desk for cover. He heard the archers release the arrows, but he didn't know that Naruto already had been forced to face similar situations. Toro's bow was far more powerful, and right now Naruto had a far easier time to time his attack. What is going? Jinuzo yelled from his hiding spot when he heard something resembling a roar. The next moment the room shook violently as some incredible power tore its way through it. When Jinuzo dared to look, he saw that most of his office was now trashed. The mercenary archers were blasted out into the corridor and smashed against the wall, most suffering numerous breaks. The doors that were previously smashed open now were completely torn off their hinges, and there was even a piece of the wall missing as if torn out by some animal. The poor mercenary that originally was used as a battering ram to smash open the doors was now in the corner, buried under the remains of the books and pieces of the unfortunate bookcase. Nice new trick, Naruto. Suits you. Kakashi rubbed his ear. Because it is awesome? Because it is loud. Kakashi didn't mention that he for a moment felt the menacing aura appear around Naruto, but only for a moment. The boy clearly mastered the initial level of his abilities as a Jinchuriki. Where were we? Kakashi grabbed Jinuzo by his hair, pulling him out from behind his desk. I suggest you talk, or I'll let my friend yell at you. Kakashi smirked behind the mask. Like hell, I'll Rasengan his ass. No please, there is no need for that. Sure, I know what we did was wrong, but nobody got hurt, right? Your fake medicine made people sick, it is poisonous, you bastard. Naruto growled. Huh? What do you mean poisonous? Jinuzo looked between Kakashi and Naruto, not understanding what they were talking about. Normally laboratories were quiet places. After all, you didn't need to make noise to do research, at least not often. In illegal laboratories, for obvious reasons, that was more of a rule. I feel. One of the guards standing by the wall suddenly took a step back and slid down the wall, quickly falling asleep. Another guard standing in the far corner began to pull out his sword when the same happened to him, only he fell face down like a log. A moment later the vent leading into the ventilation shaft was kicked open and a young man wielding a sword dropped down. The only remaining person in the room was a man in a lab coat and wearing large oval glasses. Worked like a charm. Sakura also dropped down, observing her handiwork. Finally, about time you people showed up. I was getting tired of waiting for you. The scientist stood up with an annoyed look. Sasuke-kun. Sakura leaned over to the last Uchiha. I am confused. It sounds as we are some delivery boys late with his order. Explain yourself. Sasuke ordered, but before the man could speak a door opened and another guard came inside holding a tray with food. He looked around in shock, but before he could raise the alarm, Sasuke kicked the tray out of his hands and threw him over his head, slamming the larger man into the ground, while Sakura finished his job with a swift kick, knocking out the sudden guest. Hey, that was my lunch, you know. The scientist rolled his eyes, motioning to the spilled soup. I can mix that with your blood. Sasuke looked annoyed. Oh right, you ninjas tend to have a short fuse. Ahem, please explain yourself. Sakura sighed, noticing how Sasuke's eyebrow began to twitch. It seemed that the young Uchiha found the comment particularly annoying. Fine, I forgot that along with having a temper, you ninjas also lack basic logic and any skills in deduction. Fine, I'll chew through the matter for you. Now even Sakura developed an annoyed twitch. I am Kitamoko, and as far as biochemistry goes, I am your man. Some other so-called experts tend to laugh at my concepts, but they all are just stupid, arrogant old men who can't see the larger picture. Unfortunately, criminals had a better understanding of my skills. Long story short, I ended up here and was forced to waste my talents making harmless counterfeit medicine from whatever I was provided with. A trained monkey could handle that. Hate to break it to you, but your medicine is not exactly harmless. Well, of course it isn't, you stupid brat. The scientist sighed and rolled his eyes. As long as I made harmless stuff, you ninjas didn't get involved, and at that rate I would have spent who knows how long in this accursed place. Luckily, the local idiots know next to nothing about chemistry. Hell, they can't tell the difference between sugar and salt for what I know. You altered the fake medicine to make it harmful? People got sick, you know. Sakura accused. Just a little bit. I made them bad enough to show symptoms, but with proper treatment everyone will recover in a few days. All I needed was to get the attention of the shinobi forces by making the problem seem far more serious than it actually was. Yes, my plan is that simple, yet it is great, isn't it? That actually makes sense, in a sick, twisted kind of way. Sakura turned to Sasuke, who after a moment pushed his sword back into the sheath on his back. Lady Tsunade is a medical ninja, let her hear him out. The Uchiha decided. Finally, you are making sense, boy. A man like me should not speak to mere brats. Now that Tsunade you speak of. I've heard the name before, I think. Shut it, you are coming with us. That is rude. Kitamoko shook his head. You walk with us or we will drag you along. Sasuke explained, and the scientist followed the genin with a sour look. Chapter 66. I am growing sick of it. Kiba paced back and forth with Shino watching him patiently. The two genin had very different personalities, almost complete opposites of each other. If Kiba was passionate and impatient, then Shino was an epitome of calmness, easily balancing out Kiba's brash personality. Please be more precise in your statements. Shino spoke quietly. I mean, we are perfectly capable genin, but all we have been doing lately is training and training. I have nothing against working hard to improve, but I want to put my skills to the test. Our team is a member short, thus our ability to work effectively in the field is compromised. I know, it is not the same without Hinata, but seriously, we are not helpless babies. We can handle a simple mission no problem even without Hinata. A challenge never hurt anyone. A challenge, huh? Do you all feel that way? Kurenai appeared behind Kiba, who jumped away on pure reflex. He was so concentrated on his tirade that he failed to notice her approaching, though usually he had not problem doing that. Despite my teammate expressing himself in a way I find unsuitable, I can agree with his assumptions and consider his displeasure over the situation justified. You could have just said yes, Shino. Kiba sighed. Bark! Akamaru voiced his opinion from his position on the ground. See, Kurenai-sensei, Akamaru backs me up and so does Shino, sort of. Well, I can agree that our team had little action lately. I heard that Hinata is progressing nicely and we can expect her to return to active duty soon, but it wouldn't hurt to go ask Lady Tsunade if she has a mission suitable for us. That is what I am talking about. Kiba grinned. Let's get going before all the good missions are gone. Tsunade listened to the report of Team 7 and also allowed Kitamoko to explain his actions. So far the scientist annoyed her to no end. He was an arrogant man, completely convinced of his own genius. Unfortunately, the details he gave her gave his claims a bit of credit. Perhaps he wasn't as good as he was claiming, but the fact that he was talented was clear. That meant that Team 7 not only resolved a tricky situation, but also brought back a man that could be an asset to the village. Lady Tsunade, I require your signatures on these documents, and you also need to review these reports. Oh, and your last lottery ticket, you won nothing. Shizune came into the office with a stack of papers crowned by a colorful lottery ticket that Tsunade instantly snatched, crumpled and threw into the garbage bin with a sour look. Yes, I knew the name Tsunade sounded familiar. I dare say spending time for those thugs must cause my memory to go rusty. Kitamoko exclaimed with a laugh. I mean Tsunade, how could I forget? So you've heard about me. Tsunade leaned back in her chair with a satisfied smirk. Sometimes it was good to have the reputation of the world-class medical ninja, and since Kitamoko worked in the field of pharmaceuticals, he obviously could have stumbled upon her name, especially when it came to antidotes and antitoxins. Naturally. You are the worst gambler ever. I heard about you when you lost a large sum to some guy in a casino. Considering your current job, I guess your luck never improved, huh? Bwahahaha. Naruto leaned against the wall laughing, and even his teammates struggled to suppress their amusement. Kakashi used the moment to hide his face behind his orange book. Shizune, take this man to the medical lab and see if he can help out with your project. If he proves useful, I will help him settle in the village by providing a sum from our treasury. Yes, Lady Tsunade. Shizune nodded, trying not to laugh. Wipe that smile off your face. Yes, of course. Tsunade saw how the icy tone made her assistant stand straighter, all laughter instantly disappearing from her face. Shizune then led the scientist away, wondering if he indeed would be able to help with that drug that was retrieved from the fallen missing Nin Ramuzo. As for you, Tsunade turned to Team 7. Mission accomplished. I will make sure the organization you uncovered will be taken care of, though you already dealt a crippling blow. The payment will be handled as usual, and if Kitamoko will prove useful, I will add a bonus. Just then someone knocked on the door, and a moment later Kurenai led her 2 remaining genin into the office. I am sorry, are we interrupting something? No, I just finished debriefing Team 7 on their mission. What is it, Kurenai? My team would request a mission to keep in shape. The Genjutsu mistress asked politely. I feel uncomfortable in giving a mission to a team that is a member short, but I can see logic behind your request. There is a mission suitable for a genin team, but... Tsunade frowned and then glanced at Team 7. Kakashi, what are your plans for your team? Huh. Well, I'd prefer to work with Naruto for a while. He seems to need help refining some of his techniques. Sakura needs time to study all the materials Shizune gave her, so I think Kurenai could take Sasuke, if he agrees, that is. HN. Sasuke crossed his hands on his chest. I won't demand it, Sasuke, but we all would appreciate some help. Kurenai looked at the last Uchiha. I have difficulties dispelling or working around some of the illusions used by Sakura. An expert will be able to clarify some aspects for me. Done. Kurenai agreed. It was a reasonable trade. After all, if he would temporarily back up her team, she could offer some minor training tips. The village hidden in the mist wasn't called that way for nothing. After all, the Hidden Leaf village was in the middle of an enormous forest, the Hidden Sand was in the middle of the desert, so it was logical that mists were typical for the Hidden Mist village. The village itself was located on a large island in the chain of islands that were a small distance from each other. Ships that sailed here were mostly manned by experienced crews and commanded by experienced captains, as the waters here were dangerous. Still, when it came to profits, merchants often took risks, so the Hidden Mist also had a large port. Toro took time to observe how the security was organized, and it was very tight. It was a far easier task to infiltrate the Hidden Leaf during the Chunin Exams. The area was patrolled, but Toro avoided those small groups with relative ease. The problem was that he had to get in without alerting anyone. He couldn't afford taking out one of the sentries, as someone missing would create suspicion and eventually might reveal that the village was infiltrated. The main gates were a path Toro ruled out instantly. Whoever came was carefully searched. Getting over a wall was also a path he didn't like. Too many guards left very little chance to slip by unnoticed. Even the sewers seemed like an unsuitable path, as Toro discovered numerous traps that would obviously trigger an alarm. But any fortress had a weak spot, and Toro figured the port was his best way in. Getting to the pier would be a simple task, but the area close to the shore was separated from the rest of the village by another wall, which was his main obstacle. It late night when Toro made his move. The sky was covered with clouds. Most likely it would rain again soon, but that meant the night was exceptionally dark. It was next to impossible to notice anyone quietly swimming over to the pier, hidden by the large husks of the merchant ships. One of the ships arrived not a long time ago, and part of the crew was busy unloading the cargo, while others went to have a drink in the local taverns. The mist ninjas here mostly concentrated on checking the cargo for contraband. Thus, by careful moving between the piles of cargo and the local storages, Toro managed to finally get close enough the inner wall. It was guarded by 2 mist ninjas. Their job was to double-check the wagons that carried the goods inside the village, most likely to be sold at the market that would open up in a few hours. Unfortunately, the mist ninjas handled their job well, either their strong sense of duty helping them, or perhaps the fear of punishment, as Yagura had a reputation of a very harsh ruler. Stealth alone would not allow Toro to get inside. He required a diversion, but a diversion that would not look like one. Right now he could only wait, hiding behind a pile of crates that seemed to be too heavy to be transported in a wagon. He had to sit in rather uncomfortable pose to avoid being spotted from the nearest guard tower, the guards standing atop of it with torches illuminating the area. Suddenly Toro saw two sailors, both clearly drunk, arguing about something. They began to shove each other, until one of the mist ninjas guarding the gates turned to them, ordering the sailors to stop their fighting. The sailors clearly had no desire to get into trouble with a mist ninja and with some grumbles stepped away from each other, still sending glares in each other's direction. But the fear of retribution defeated the drunken stupor, and both men turned around, walking into separate direction. Umph! One of the sailors stumbled forward when something hit him in the back. He saw a rock land a small distance away and with a roar turned around and pounced the other sailor who was slowly walking away. "Take that, you bastard! I'll teach you to throw rocks at me!" Both men went rolling on the ground, exchanging sloppy punches. "Damn drunkards! They do that every other night," one of the mist ninjas sighed. "Idiots! I'll go break up those two, or we will get chewed out for letting them harm each other." "Sure, I'll handle things here." The ninja didn't notice how a shadow rolled on the ground under the wagon he had just checked. "Move along." The wagon moved through the gates, taking Toro inside, as he was hanging from the bottom. Behind was left the port, where two drunken sailors were finally forced to stop their fight, when a mist Chunin roughly pulled them apart, threatening with a fine and some bodily harm. At this early hour the streets were mostly deserted and Toro quickly abandoned the wagon once it slowed down while taking a sharp turn. He slid into an alley and from there climbed to the roof of a nearby building, carefully staying in the shadows. He got inside the hidden mist village, but despite the obvious difficulty of that task he knew it was the easiest part of his mission. If the outer defenses had such tight security, it was obvious that it would be impossible to get the secrets of the village without some inside help. But to do that Toro first had to stay low and observe the situation in the village. According to Jiraiya, the hidden mist was close to an all-out revolt. All that Toro had to do was to find Yagura's opponents and convince them to cooperate. It was agreed that Sasuke would meet members of Team 8 by the gates several hours later. Since Sasuke spent most of the night crawling around some run-down building used by criminals, he accepted a chance to sleep for a few hours. Sure, being a ninja he could go without sleep for a few days if needed, but right now there was no reason for that. Kurenai told them she would brief them about the mission once they would meet up. So several hours later Sasuke arrived at the meeting spot feeling refreshed. He wasn't late, but members of Team 8 arrived earlier. Perhaps it was the way their team worked, they preferred to arrive early. Sasuke silently admitted that they could be grateful that he didn't arrive 2 or 3 hours late, considering Kakashi's habits. "Heh, so the great Uchiha decided to join us." Kiba smirked, while Kurenai rolled her eyes. She had a feeling Kiba would say something that might tick off Sasuke in the wrong way. "My teammate has a brash personality," Shino mentioned. "I am teammates with Naruto," Sasuke reminded, and Shino accepted that. After all, Sasuke seemed to accept his teammate despite their personalities clashing in more ways than one. "What is our mission? You didn't tell us to pack, so why are we by the gates?" "Observant, aren't you?" Kurenai smirked. "A representative from the land of wine is coming. It is possible that we will sign a trade agreement. It isn't really a big deal, but the village could use some extra income and Lady Tsunade would prefer if everything went without any problems." "So we are what, his bodyguards?" Kiba asked. "No, I am his bodyguard. I have a B-rank mission. You three are to keep his daughter safe, show her around the village, entertain her if needed. You have a C-rank mission. We are to babysit some girl? Great mission, sensei," Kiba grumbled. "Not all missions are about combat. Sometimes the shinobi must also be a diplomat. Sometimes we have take different roles if we go undercover and so on. You wanted a challenge, Kiba, there you go." "That is so not what I had in mind." The young Inuzuka frowned. "I request details on our target. If we know something about her personality we might be able to avoid accidentally insulting her and will be able to figure out a more suitable way to keep her entertained if we are aware of her interests. I have a profile right here. Read it, use it. They will be here in about an hour." "Just great," Kiba sighed. "Bark, bark. Since when are you an optimist, Akamaru?" "Forget it, don't answer." Kiba shook his head, while Akamaru sat down with a smug expression on his face, or at least his own variant of it. "So, Kakashi-sensei, it's been a while since you trained me one-on-one." Naruto grinned. "Oh, well, you seem to get knowledge from many other sources." "I trust that." "Shout you used during the mission was something you came up with, Master Jiraiya." "Toro helped a bit too, but yeah, and it is called the Tailed Beast Roar. Pervy Sage says that it comes natural to me because I have an affinity to wind chakra." "That is rare." "I know, but Asuma-sensei gave me some tips, though I've had no clear results yet." "Let me guess, leaf-cutting exercise?" Yeah, but so far I only managed to dry leaves up by using too much chakra. You'll grasp the concept eventually. It is hard to use chakra nature transformation. Who knows, maybe one day you will be able to complete the Rasengan. Kakashi wondered. What do you mean? Isn't it complete? No, it isn't. You see, there are two high-level techniques of chakra control: shape manipulation and nature transformation. Yeah, I know, Toro told us that. He also said that your Chidori is mostly nature transformation, with a bit of shape manipulation to hold it. Well, yeah. I developed the Chidori by trying to combine the Rasengan with lightning chakra. Needless to say, it isn't complete. So, let me get this straight, Sensei. Naruto looked sharply at Kakashi. Even your original jutsu is a rip-off since you used an idea someone else thought up. Air copy ninja, remember? Right, whatever. I don't think I will be able to attempt what you describe anytime soon. So, what will we train in now? I sense that when you use that tailed beast roar technique you use small amount of Fox's chakra. Yep, charge it through my vocal cords. I also remember that using the Fox chakra makes you faster and stronger. What you need to know is the limit of your powers when you do that. And how do I do that? We will play a game of tag. Your task is to catch up to me. Seriously? Yeah, so... Bye. Naruto saw how Kakashi dashed off, and Naruto quickly followed with an amused grin. It was clear that Kakashi wasn't even trying as Naruto began to gain up. But eventually, when Naruto was only a small distance away, Kakashi sped up and Naruto realized that his own speed didn't match up to that of his Jounin sensei. Well, it was time for a boost. TSK, about time. Kakashi felt that animalistic aura appear behind him. Luckily, Naruto could control it on a level where he didn't flood the area with the monstrous killer intent that could send a grown man down to his knees crying. I'll catch you yet. Naruto's voice was deeper, almost as if he was growling, and Kakashi was forced to increase his speed yet again. Now even the Jounin felt strain as he kept moving at incredible speeds with the Jinchuriki hot on his heels. Perhaps if it would be a race for endurance, Naruto would have a chance. But when it came to speed, even the power of the tailed beast wasn't enough. Kakashi kept Naruto a stable distance away. Crap! Naruto stumbled, his fingers brushing against the ground to keep balance, and then the young Jinchuriki felt something. It was the animalistic instinct that surfaced for a moment. It was a chase. Kakashi was prey and he was the predator. He needed to catch up. Huh! Kakashi glanced back and nearly tripped himself. He saw how with a low growl Naruto narrowed his red eyes and went down on all four, like a fox. Somehow that gave him an incredible boost of speed as Naruto, surrounded by reddish aura, now really resembled a wild animal. Umph! Kakashi didn't react when Naruto gained up to him in less than a few seconds, pouncing the Jounin and slamming him to the ground. They slid back with Naruto pinning Kakashi down and glaring down with those red eyes. Naruto? Kakashi tensed when he heard a low growl escape Naruto's throat, but just when Kakashi began to get worried, the horrible aura faded and Naruto's eyes turned blue once more, followed by his toothy grin. Tag, you are it. Chapter 67. Hunter ninjas were a very specific group of shinobi, even by shinobi standards. Their main task was to find and dispose of the potential threats to the village, primarily ninjas that went rogue and could potentially reveal the village secrets to the rival villages. Among the hunter ninjas, the targets were not classified by how skilled or dangerous they were, but by the amount of secrets they stole when they went rogue. Being a hunter ninja also meant making sacrifices. Such shinobi had to erase their identity and become even more mysterious than the Anbu division. Their blank masks always resembled one another. They had no families, no friends, no hobbies, and their identities before becoming hunter ninjas were erased. Usually the one becoming a hunter nin already had very few ties to the world. They were carefully picked from individuals that would not miss their earlier lives. Talented orphans were primary candidates. But hunting rogue ninjas was not the only task of the hunter ninjas. Sometimes threats arose within the village itself, and then they were tasked with finding it and eliminating it without any hesitation. When it came to that, they were even more valuable than Anbu, who the very least could appear in public, while hunter ninjas always operated undercover or from the shadows. Considering the situation in the hidden mist, the possibility of a revolt, it was of no surprise that the hunter ninjas were all over the place. Toro was forced to move around very carefully. Considering how difficult it was to even get inside the hidden mist, it was clear that fulfilling his main objectives would be only so much harder. The first thing he had to do is get a clear picture of what was actually going on in the hidden mist, and then try to make contact with the local opposition, as otherwise his mission would end in a failure. The atmosphere in the village was tense. You could practically feel it with your skin. It was as if two equally dangerous predators were staring down one another, each claiming his right for the prey between them. Such tensions could only be resolved in blood, and eventually rivers of red would flow down the streets of the hidden mist. But that day would come later. Still, always remaining in the shadows was not Toro's plan. He had to blend in, but using the appearance of a mist shinobi would have been the worst possible idea, considering that many expected getting stabbed in the back by their own comrades. Instead, Toro took the appearance of construction workers, postmen, and regular drunks, anyone who nobody would pay any attention to. No bodies were perfect, because no one cared about them. Few looked at them, and mostly their appearance allowed Toro to go around unnoticed. He visited taverns, markets, any place where people talked, and gathered information grain by grain to get the full picture. Apparently the civilians supported the opposition. They naturally didn't want there to be a civil war, as that promised them nothing good, but it was by now inevitable, and if they had to choose the side, they sure didn't want Yagura's reign to go on. The bloodline purges alone were horrible, but people even now often disappeared. Mist ninjas loyal to Yagura used any method in the book to intimidate people and maintain control by using fear. Naturally, living in such an atmosphere was not pleasant, but people were not even allowed to leave the hidden mist. Toro noticed a young-looking mist ninja with blue hair that was followed by someone. Apparently the one being followed knew that, but didn't show, as he kept walking at a slow pace, until he turned into a secluded alley, away from unneeded eyes. "What do you want now?" The mist ninja turned around, glaring at the figure that followed him into the alley. He was now facing someone in a dark cloak, hiding the figure, whose face was hidden by a hood and a white blank mask. So far that man maintained silence. "You already took my sword away, what else do you want? It was confirmed that you are associated with the traitors of the Hidden Mist. Under the orders of the Mizukage you are accused of treason." "Really?" The mist ninjas didn't sound surprised. "You think I will come quietly and let you torture information out of me? I was only ordered to eliminate you. You will be disposed of in the orderly manner." The mist ninja took a step back and paled. Those words meant that he was not only going to be killed, but his body would be destroyed, not a trace left telling about his fate. That was how hunter ninjas worked. "I will not go down without a fight. I was warned about this. It changes nothing." The hunter ninja moved forward, a kunai appearing from his sleeve, but the strike was parried when the mist ninja pulled out his own kunai just in time to avoid the lethal blow. The hunter nin wasn't kidding, he went for the kill the moment the fight began. Even so, it was clear that the mist ninja was somehow not used to wield the kunai in close combat. His moves were too wide, with too much power pushed into them for such a small weapon, and so in a few strikes the hunter ninja disarmed his opponent, and delivered a strong kick, throwing his foe back into the wall with considerable force. "Tisk, damn!" The mist ninja looked up and reached for the kunai that rolled out of his grasp. His move didn't go unnoticed, and the hunter nin stomped on the hand, his strike followed by a loud crack when the bones gave in. Should be noted that despite getting several fingers broken, the mist ninja only allowed himself a pain-filled hiss as he stared into his faceless enemy. "Only orders." The hunter ninja pulled his hand with a kunai for a final strike, but before he could make a final move, some threw a thin string around his neck, cutting off the flow of oxygen almost instantly. Then the hunter ninja was pulled back and thrown over the shoulder, the string still around his neck. The hunter ninja was now stuck on the ground, face down, someone pinning him from above with a knee, while tightening the deadly loop around the throat. In this position, the hunter ninja couldn't even bring his hands together to form a seal, or do anything to throw off his foe. Clearly an attack was well planned to not let the well-trained hunter ninja even a ghost of a chance to escape. In a full-out one-on-one battle he would have been a deadly opponent, but even the strongest were vulnerable when they were not expecting an attack. Eventually the hunter ninja stopped struggling. He couldn't even scream to call for help, and his foe released him only when he was convinced that his foe was dead. "Who are you?" The mist ninja stood up holding a kunai in his uninjured hand. "Obviously someone who doesn't wish for your death. Be grateful." The newcomer pulled back slightly, but then grabbed the head of the mist ninja and pulled it to the side, breaking the neck just to be sure. Mist hunter nins had a habit of faking their deaths. "It is not beyond Yagura to sacrifice one of his own men to gain information. I can't trust you." "Quite right, you can't. I can say the same thing about you. You can call me Toro." The newcomer introduced himself, and pulled away the string he used to suffocate the hunter ninja. "Chojuro." The mist ninja nodded after a moment, as he looked over the one who saved him. The bow strap to the back caught his eye, but he noticed that string Toro used against the hunter ninja must have been a spare one for the bow. It wasn't the quickest way to dispose of an enemy, but it didn't leave a trail of blood, either did it allow the victim to call for help. "You are not from the Hidden Mist," Chojuro concluded. "Perhaps. Let's put it this way, I have a proposition for your friends." "My friends?" "You are clearly not a friend of the current Mizukage, and right now there are no neutral parties in the Hidden Mist. You seem to be aware of the situation. People talk when they think nobody is listening. Fine, I'll take you to meet someone. Don't expect anything until we confirm that you are not Yugura's agent. Agreed. Let's make it seem like you are still being tailed. Toro took the cloak and the mask from the hunter Nin, revealing the unremarkable face that was twisted into a grimace of agony. The body was then dragged over to a manhole in the corner of the alley and dumped into the sewers where it would remain hidden at least for a short while. Decent plan. Chojuro nodded and with a pained moan pushed his injured hand into his pocket, to make it seem as if he was just lazily walking around. No need to show that he suffered an injury. Lady Tsunade, a report from Kitamoko-san. Shizune walked into the office and handed her master a folder. Tsunade raised an eyebrow, not expecting to get the results so fast, but it wouldn't hurt to take a look. This is unexpected. I know. That man is. I hate his attitude, but it seems that he isn't just bragging. He cracked the formula. In just over a day, while you've been working on it for 3 weeks? Tsunade looked at Shizune, who went red. I am not a chemist and drugs aren't my specialty. Making excuses, Shizune? Tsunade smirked. She enjoyed the little payback considering the amount of work her assistant often dumped on her. I mean, relax. One thing is clear. Kitamoko is a useful man to have around, and if he keeps up working the way he does, I can tolerate even his arrogance. Some interesting findings about the drug, though. It appears to be toxic. Yes, using it is like a double-edged sword. You remember when I did the autopsy on that rogue ninja, Rimozo, I reported significant damage to her liver and kidneys, damage that had nothing to do with the injury she suffered during the fight. It seems that using that drug will eventually result in kidney failure and liver cirrhosis. Wonderful. Tsunade rolled her eyes. Kitamoko did say it is possible to generate an antitoxin to counter the effects. He will require some of the drug to test it on lab animals to perfect the antitoxin, but basically he says there is a way to tie down toxins, convert them into harmless protein, and then the body will do the rest. Side effects? Potential allergic reactions. The drug itself also forces the body to rapidly produce chakra, and that takes its toll on the heart, but if used in regular doses it won't cause permanent harm, just temporary arrhythmia. Anything else? Well, there is potential in some of the findings. For example, some of the principles can be applied to develop medicine for those with cardiac problems, usable even by civilians. In theory, at least. Excellent. Keep me informed, Shizune, and keep an eye on that scientist. Also double-check the results of his work. Apparently Team 7 found an invaluable resource for the village. Who knew their mission would end up in such a successful way? Perks of being a shinobi, you never know what happens next. Right. Remind me to write up an order granting members of Team 7 a bonus for their achievements. Good work must be rewarded. Yes, Lady Tsunade. Chojuro took his time moving around the city in a confusing pattern, just in case, until it began to get dark. He then silently slipped into the side street, and inside an unremarkable apartment building. Toro followed, feeling how several pairs of eyes were trailing his every move. Naturally, considering his was dressed as a hunter Nin, but Chojuro made a barely noticeable hand sign with his uninjured hand and nobody attacked Toro as he followed Chojuro down into the cellar. Care to explain why brought someone like him with you? A man wearing a dark green haori and an eye patch on his right eye approached the duo. They ended up in a spacious room with several other mist ninjas looking curiously around. Apparently this one of the hidden bases of the opposition, a minor one. He killed the hunter ninja that tried to dispose of me, though it would have been better if he acted a few seconds earlier. Chojuro sent an accusing glance at Toro, who discarded his disguise, ending up in his usual attire. When an enemy is moments away from killing his foe, he is the least aware of his surroundings. Toro explained. Your injuries will heal. Tisk. Chojuro frowned. Man up, Chojuro, you dare call yourself a member of the Seven Swordsmen yet you are upset over some broken fingers? Sorry Ao-san. Chojuro scratched the back of his head and yelped from pain, forgetting about the broken fingers. Oh, go get treated before you make it worse. Ao looked over Toro, who for some reason felt that the eye patch wasn't covering just an empty hole. You are not one of Yugura's agents, your chakra is unfamiliar. Fine, I'll talk with you, but keep your weapons to yourself, people here are on edge. I'd prefer to speak in a less crowded area. Very well. Ao led Toro into the side room that currently was empty. It seemed to double as a small storage area. So, who sent you and why? Let's just say Sarutobi Hiruzen sends his best wishes. The Hidden Leaf, huh? What do you want? Information regarding Hoshigaki Kisame. That man is a traitor. But to get detailed information on him, you will need to get into the archives. You don't sound thrilled by the idea. Archives aren't a local pub, that is an installation with a very high level of security. Infiltrating it is not an easy task. But not an impossible one. Toro tilted his head. Why would we want to help you? Sure, Hashigaki Kisame is a traitor and personally I won't mind giving you information on it, but archive contain things that I'd prefer to keep out of the reach of other villages. You need to offer us something. Once Yagura is overthrown, the Leaf will recognize the new government of the Hidden Mist and open up diplomatic and trade relations. You will need that to recover after a civil war. That is a very tempting offer. Ao agreed after a moment of silence. Can you guarantee that? You expect a written treaty? Look at me, I don't even bear the symbol of the leaf. This is not the situation where things are made official. I suppose that is true. Ao nodded. I've heard of Sarutobi Hiruzen. His word is valued among the 5 great ninja villages and he doesn't have a reputation of a liar, just of a very harsh politician. Your offer has its merits, but the diplomatic and trade relations will benefit the leaf as well. It works as a sign of goodwill, but we need something here and now. Your offer? Ao went silent once more, looking over the young shinobi before him. He didn't seem more than a couple of years older than Chojuro, but when talking with him Ao felt almost as if talking with a veteran. The fact that he also managed to silently take out a hunter nin told enough about his skills, and the fact that he waited and calmly watched Chojuro getting thrown around and injured said that he wasn't the one to allow emotions to rule his actions. In other words, Toro was dangerous. Fine, it is fairly simple. We can help you get inside the archives. It will be a risky task, but I suppose you already know that being here. You will get what you came for, but those archives also contain information we require. While inside you will get both what you need and what we need. Everyone is happy. Can you make such a decision? I will consult our leader. Until now you can rest in here, but don't try leaving. We will speak again tomorrow. Then we have an arrangement, even if temporary. Toro nodded. Ao nodded and led Toro back into the main room, where he whispered something to a nearby mist ninja who glanced at Toro for a moment. Toro was then led to a part of the room that seemed to serve as a dining area and was provided with a bowl of some stew. Not exactly tasty, but it filled the stomach all right, and considering the current arrangement Toro had no reason to think the food was poisoned. So I guess you are not an enemy at least. Chojuro sat down in front of Toro, his hand already bandaged up in a way that would ensure the proper healing of his broken fingers. He still would be unable to use hand seals for a while though. We have an agreement that will benefit both parties, Toro replied. So, which party are you working for? Right, stupid question. Chojuro sighed, noticing a blank state. Still, thanks for saving me back there. I didn't do it out of sympathy. I figured as much. You said they took your sword, Toro mentioned, pushing the empty bowl away. Oh right. You've heard Ao saying I want to be one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. Well, the Hidden Mist only has one of the great swords left in its possession, and not so long ago it belonged to me. I guess when they figured out I wasn't Yagura's fan they took Hiramikarii away, must be hidden in the vault now. Unfortunate. Toro nodded, understanding why Chojuro seemed awkward while fighting with a kunai. He was used to a much heavier weapon. Don't worry. When we win, I'll get it back and we'll use it to help make the Hidden Mist great again, Chojuro declared, and Toro easily understood that the shinobi in front of him was sincere in his claims. Chapter 68. Uchiha Sasuke was honest when he said he didn't have any particular likes. He in a way was a very peculiar person, diving most things in 2 particular categories. Things were either useful or useless. Useless things annoyed him, and he really despised being annoyed. But as long as he deemed something useful he could overlook pretty much anything. That was why he learned to accept his teammates. Naruto was a goofy idiot, Sakura was a pink girly girl, but they were capable ninjas and he trusted them to watch his back and was ready to do the same for them. It felt strangely familiar to learn to accept people this way. Somehow when around his team Sasuke began to notice a feeling he thought was gone forever. When training, working with his teammates he felt at peace. It didn't matter if Naruto did something utterly stupid, or if Sakura once again sent him a flirty look, or if Kakashi again buried his face into that accrued book. It did nothing to change that calm warm feeling. The only time Sasuke felt something similar was years ago, when he was with his family. Feeling this way now was a bit painful, but it was something Sasuke wanted to grab onto to keep himself from drowning in the darkness. This was his light. Tisk, typical. Sasuke sighed, closing the folder. The mission target was due to arrive any minute now, but Sasuke didn't have a pleasant feeling about this mission. Somehow he didn't think that by agreeing to temporarily assist teammate, he would get stuck babysitting a girl. Judging by the profile, she was about their age, but that was about all they had in common. Well, she at least looks nice, Kiba commented, looking at the photo. I find that irrelevant for our assignment. Shino turned to his teammate. Well, it would be even more of a pain if she was ugly, Kiba protested. Don't care. Sasuke shook his head. Well, of course you don't. The Inuzuka smirked. With all those girls flocking around you in the academy, I still wonder how come you don't have a girlfriend. What use is there having one? Pfft, girlfriends are not for being useful. Kiba waved his hands while trying to find the words to explain what purpose girlfriends actually served. One could argue that similar relationships are necessary in order to procreate. To do what? Kiba turned to Shino. I'll worry about that a few years later, Sasuke replied with mild distaste. Considering the initial stages of our careers, I find such an approach productive. I am not sure I understand. Kiba scratched the back of his head. Bark, bark. Seriously, Akamaru? That is what Shino meant. Man, Shino, you are a perv. Kiba laughed. All right, quiet you three, they are coming. Kurenai glanced at the genin while a rich-looking carriage rode through the gates, escorted by 4 mounted samurai. I really don't understand how one of the major ninja villages can be so far away. A tall, but somewhat chubby man appeared from the carriage, while his armed escorts dismounted. He then noticed Kurenai. Kohimasaru-san. Me and my team will provide security during your stay. Lady Tsunade is expecting you in a few hours. I expected something more from a ninja village such as the Hidden Leaf, the man commented while glancing over the genin. The genin will protect your daughter. Lady Tsunade considered she would feel more comfortable with people of her own age group, Kurenai explained. She already understood that the man was convinced of his own importance, and would be extremely annoying, but she had no choice but to ignore the rude comments. I can't see how these 3 can protect anyone. Hey, Kiba felt how Shino elbowed him, rather roughly. They are perfectly qualified for the job. Besides, they will be inside the village. I assure you there is no danger. Kurenai spoke calmly. I rarely trust a word of another. Kohimasaru spoke after a moment, and then turned to one of the samurai that escorted him, giving a short nod. The samurai seemed to understand the signal and took a step forward towards the genin, while pulling out his katana. Oh. The samurai stopped in his tracks. The reason wasn't hard to understand. A tip of a razor-sharp sword was poking him under the chin, while a surprisingly strong hand pushed the katana back into the sheath, not allowing the samurai to pull out his weapon. One should think twice before reaching for a weapon inside a ninja village. Please refrain from such tests, Kohimasaru-san. Nobody wants there to be injuries. Kurenai narrowed her eyes slightly. Kiba and Shino were already behind the remaining trio of samurai, just in case, while Sasuke kept the last one at the tip of his blade. This is proof enough. Impressive. The man nodded. Whoa. Sasuke looked up and groaned. The girl they were supposed to be protecting came out of the carriage and now was looking at Sasuke with a dreamy look. The young Uchiha released the samurai, but he really wanted to go pound his head against the wall. This was the worst mission possible. The girl had annoying written all over her. Of all the... Not this place again. Naruto frowned, realizing that he was once again standing in ankle-deep water in some place that resembled a sewer. He was training with Kakashi, was having quite a nice time, felt that he kept improving and eventually tired himself out. It wasn't that late to go home, so Naruto decided to take a nap on the edge of the clearing under a tree. The weather was good after all. Kakashi didn't object. He was actually afraid the blonde Jinchuriki would ask him to treat him to a meal. Kakashi also felt a bit roughed up after their game of tag. When using the chakra of the fox, Naruto was quite rough. Hey, fox! You in there? Naruto approached the giant gate, and a moment later a low growl came from the other side, followed by 2 red eyes staring at him from the darkness. Human! The fox stepped out into the light. Unless your pathetic mind still fails to grasp the concept, allow me to once again clarify my situation here. I can't leave this accursed place. Then why do I keep coming back here? I sincerely wish I was aware of that, human, in order to prevent it. As I already state, your presence irritates me. You do have ideas, don't you? Why would I share those? Well, you're far older than I, so I bet you know more stuff to help figure this out, and if I know how to control this, I can assure I won't bother you without a reason. No, like you are a pleasant company. I despise the idea of cooperating with a human, let alone my jailer, but perhaps this will at least help make my time here bearable. Stop constantly telling me how much you hate it here. If you are a mighty-tailed beast, start at least acting like one, because so far you more resemble a whiny puppy. Smash! The clawed paw slammed against the giant gate, but the barrier seemed as solid as ever and Naruto knew it, not moving an inch, despite impressive force behind that strike. If not for this gate. Well, it is there, and it isn't going anywhere, Fox. At least not with your attitude. Stop lecturing me, human! Stop whining like a big furry baby. Silence raised as the enormous fox and the blonde genin glared at each other. Considering the mechanics of the seal used by the fourth Hokage, we are linked together. I am using your chakra, big surprise. Chakra has both physical and spiritual aspects. If you use my chakra, you also use every other connection we have. If you haven't noticed, your skills at utilizing my power has increased, which is a surprise considering you being a lowly human. You are capable to use more of my chakra and use it in a more stable, refined way. Well, yeah, I work a lot on that. Naruto nodded. With that, it is possible that you also develop the mental link between us. Before, you were only able to draw upon my chakra when you were in a state of severe emotional distress, especially when you felt grief and anger. Like when I fought Haku on the bridge. Precisely. Such emotions are primal, crude, but are very strong and allowed us to connect on a spiritual level, opening your access to my chakra. The link developed further when that incredibly annoying pervert threw you off the cliff. He relied on the primal feeling of fear. As you trained, that link became even stronger as you gained an ability to appear here and do that without reliance on a strong psychological impulse. Alright, but that means I should be able to control this, but I appear here against my wishes. As all skills, this requires proper training. With some effort, I perhaps could disrupt the link for a moment to send you out of here, but that is a temporary solution at best. As for you, you appear here when you go to sleep. When your consciousness fades, you sort of occasionally stumble upon this inner piece of your mind. Sounds complex? Naruto rubbed his chin, and the fox rolled his eyes in frustration. Very well, I will explain in terms more understandable for your pathetic mind. When you go to sleep, the lights go out, and you stumble in the darkness. The door leading here is open, but you don't know where it is, but occasionally stumble upon it by mere chance. Sound logical? How do we fix that? I mean, how do I control this? All you can do is to try to come here willingly. This is more of a mental task, so it should be extremely difficult for someone like you, but with proper training, even someone as pathetic as you could learn to control this. At least theoretically, because all of this are purely my speculations, human. See, it wasn't that hard to cooperate for once, now was it? I did this only because I expect you to follow your word of not coming here without a good reason. After all, you never go back on your word, isn't that right? The fox gave its own variant of a smirk. Yeah, I don't. That is a part of my nindo. Yes, your own ideology, your idea that you follow. It will at least be amusing to watch you accept the cruel reality of the world. I already accept it, but I just don't want to give up. We discussed this already. Indeed. But all you speak of depends purely on yourself. You say you never give, but what if despite your best efforts others give up on you? Forsake what you offer, your companionship, your friendship? What will you do when things will simply be out of your hands? I trust my friends, Fox. Time will come when they will turn away from you, each for their own reasons. You can try, but you will not change that. What a sick world you live in. We both live in this world, I merely had years upon years to admit this. So you weren't always a furry ball of malice? Does it all have to do something with that one human you said you respected? That does not concern you, human. The fox suddenly raised its voice, but then calmed down again. What concerns you is what will you believe in once your world shatters. I won't allow it to shatter. We will see. I expect one of your so-called friends to be presented with a choice soon enough. A choice between your friendship and power. You humans always choose power. Sasuke. Naruto understood who the fox was talking about. What if you are wrong? A Uchiha always strives for power, it is in their blood. But should he prove his strength of will and step away, I will admit that your claims have at least some credit. And why should I care for your opinion? We have different beliefs, human. Only time shows which one of us is right, as we can't both be right. If you, a lowly human, will be able to prove me wrong, then I will at least have a reason to speak your name. Sounds good. Naruto smiled. Now leave, human, your presence still irritates me. Blah. Naruto sat up, waking up and feeling sore after sleeping on the ground. He then remembered the talk he had with the fox and smirked. Fine, you are on, furball. Achoo! Are feeling well, Sasuke-san? Yes, I just sneezed. Sasuke replied. This mission was literally hell. The girls seemed to understand that Sasuke was obligated to following her around and to ensure that she was not only safe, but also entertained. That meant that she was practically dragging him around the place, and she was talking nonstop, slowly driving Sasuke insane. In other words, she was worse than all the girls in the academy combined. Hell, if it wasn't important for the mission, he wouldn't have even bothered remembering her name, Ikkyo. Great. Oh, what is that place? Let's go see. Sasuke rolled his eyes, following the annoying pest into yet another random shop. Shino and Kiba stayed behind, just following Sasuke and the girl, but Sasuke heard Kiba's comments and silently promised that he would beat the Inuzuka to a pulp. Apparently Kiba enjoyed Sasuke's predicament. Shino as always remained silent, but he did nothing to assist Sasuke, not that he could. The girl almost instantly claimed that Shino was creepy, while Kiba smelled funny in her opinion. Sasuke on the other hand considered that it was the girl herself who smelled, considering the perfume. In other words, Sasuke almost dreamed that someone would try to attack, kidnap, or at least rob the girl, but even though she was richly dressed, it was unlikely that someone in the ninja village would attack someone surrounded by 3 genin. Of course there were robbers and muggers and pickpockets, but those were smart enough to never even come close to a shinobi. Oh look, Hinata! Kiba pointed, and indeed they saw their teammate walk down the street with a small bag in her hand. Who is that? Ikkyo asked. That is our teammate, Hinata. She got injured, is off active duty for now, Kiba explained, while Hinata approached the group with a smile. Hello, it is nice to see you all, you too, asked Sasuke-san. Hinata gave a polite bow. She was a bit surprised when she saw her teammates along with Sasuke. Hey Hinata, where are you coming back? Kiba grinned. Oh, doctors say as soon enough. They speak in medical terms, so... Right, hard to understand. Kiba nodded. Ahem. Right. Kiba nodded. This is... Ikkyo. Shino helped out. Yeah, we are tasked to protect her while her father is talking business with Lady Tsunade. Pleasure to meet you. Hinata bowed again. What is that? Ikkyo pointed at the bag in Hinata's hand, looking at the young Hyuga with suspicion. Medical herbs, I bought them to make some healing salve. Usually I gather them myself, but I have little tea time these days. How unladylike. Ikkyo commented. What is it with your eyes? Excuse me? Your eyes. You look blind. Even Shino visibly tensed. Sure, Hinata was a gentle person, but she was still a Hyuga, and you don't insult Hyuga's eyes in such a manner unless you want to be sent to a hospital or a cemetery. All members of my clan have such eyes. Hinata spoke calmly, but there were icy notes in her words. What good are they? Looks ugly. Perhaps we should be on our way. Shino offered and looked at Sasuke, but the Uchiha took a step to the side. He knew Hinata wouldn't hurt the silly girl, but wouldn't stop her if the Hyuga decided to go for some sort of payback. He would if someone insulted the Sharingan. Why? Ninjas are interesting. So what those creepy eyes are for? It wasn't easy to anger Hinata, but some things she always took very personally, especially when it came to her family. Kiba admitted that he rarely saw Hinata with such a stern look. Our eyes are our pride, they grant us unique abilities. Hyuga is a noble clan of Konoha, and Hinata is the daughter of the clan leader. Shino spoke, figuring that perhaps Hinata's higher status would stop the flow of barely veiled insults. Noble? Perhaps by your ninja standards. But to truly be a member of nobility, one needs proper tact, to know etiquette, to know how to dress accordingly. I suppose that is true. Hinata sighed. Among ninjas, other skills are valued, including the ability to kill. Eep. Ikkyo moved back when Hinata's Byakugan came to life. That is what these eyes are for. I suppose uncommon look is a small price to pay for such a great tool. It was a pleasure to talk with you, but I must return home. Sure, bye. Kiba raised his hand, while Akamaru whined from his position in Kiba's coat. Hinata eventually disappeared around the corner, and everyone felt that somehow it became warmer, as if Hinata's presence forced the temperature to drop. Whoa, she is a freak. Ikkyo commented after a moment, though Sasuke clearly enjoyed her moment of terror. She is a ninja and you are in a ninja village, Sasuke commented. But you will protect me. I am a ninja too. Oh, alright. The encounter with Hinata didn't change much in the way Ikkyo behaved, but without a doubt she would now think twice before insulting a real ninja. What bothered Sasuke was that he could have sworn that he saw a reddish tint for a moment cover Hinata's Byakugan, and her aura for the tiniest of moments gave off a very familiar feeling of rage.